Hello everyone, excellent morning to you. This is Kakaki, the African voice on Africa Independent Television, AIT. I am Onoshorena Obozege. Well, President Bola Tinubu on Tuesday carried out a minor cabinet reshuffle, sacking Wale Edun as Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, and Ahmed Dangiwa as Minister of Housing and Urban Development. Edun has been replaced by Taiwo Oyedele. Mataka Darama was named as Ahmed Dangiwa's replacement. Now, news of the cabinet were released in a memo by the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Senator George Akume, who says the move is intended to strengthen governance and boost economic performance under the Tinubu administration's Renewed Hope agenda. Though the reshuffle is largely referred to as minor, it is viewed by many as major, coming at a time when the Nigerian government is faced with having to make tough and far-reaching decisions on the economy. Taiwo Oyedele, before Tuesday's appointment, was chairman of the Presidential Committee on Fiscal Policy and Tax Reforms, while Mataka Darama is Executive Secretary of the Petroleum Technology Development Fund. The presidency says the reshuffle is a strategic move to strengthen governance and economic performance. What exactly does this mean? What are the new ministers bringing to the table different from their predecessors? How apt is the timing of this cabinet shakeup? These are questions we'll be asking and seeking answers to from Dr. Sam Amadi. Is Associate Professor and Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought, this morning on Kakaki, the African Voice. And also, it's the fourth Wednesday of the month and normalcy resumes with on Kakaki Cancer Awareness in collaboration with the Common Cancer Foundation. The focus this week is on Bowel Cancer, and Common Cancer Foundation CEO Dr. Denise Ejo will be helping us find out what we need to know as she engages Dr. B. Olusegun Olutunde. Dr. Olusegun Olutunde is a consultant oncologist at the University of Port Harcourt Teaching Hospital. And please remember that you can be a part of the program, and that will be by sending your views and your comment to all our social media handles on Facebook, X, Instagram, and on YouTube. We are Africa Independence TV on YouTube. Now, this is key because we want you to stay up to date with the latest news from around the world. And talking about latest news from around the world, we'll now join our World News Desk for Kakaki World News. Welcome to the World News on Kakaki, the African Voice. We'll begin from saying that the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer has acknowledged that he made the wrong judgment when he appointed Peter Mandelson as UK ambassador to Washington, but said he would not have done so if he had known Mandelson failed security checks. Starmer is facing calls to resign after the revelation that Mandelson was given the job despite failing security vetting. Mandelson was fired 9 months into the job over his friendship with Jeffrey Epstein.
I go into the details. I want to be very clear with this.
Starmer told lawmakers in the House of Commons that he would not have gone ahead with the appointment had he known about the security concerns. He laid blame squarely on Foreign Office officials, saying the fact Mandelson had failed security vetting could and should have been shared with me before he took up his post. Starmer is facing a skeptical audience in Parliament as he tries to explain why Mandelson became Britain's ambassador to Washington despite failing security checks and seemingly without Starmer being told about the concerns. The revelation has left furious opponents calling for Starmer to quit and uneasy allies wondering what else the nation's leader didn't know about. Starmer fired the top Foreign Office civil servant, Ollie Robbins, within hours of the revelation by The Guardian last week. But allies of Robbins say he would never have been able to share sensitive vetting information with the Prime Minister. Critics say the Mandelson appointment is more evidence of a failure of judgment by a Prime Minister who has made repeated missteps since he led Labour to a landslide election victory in July 2024. Mandelson's business links to Russia and China also set off alarm bells. But his expertise as a former European Union trade chief and contacts among global elites were considered assets in dealing with President Donald Trump's administration. He lasted less than 9 months in September 2025 after evidence emerged that he had lied about the extent of his links to Epstein.
Meanwhile, the ex-civil servant behind the decision to approve Peter Mandelson's appointment as British ambassador to Washington says he felt political pressure to rush through the appointment despite security concerns. Ollie Robbins, former head of the Region Office of Foreign Office, told the UK's House of Commons Foreign Affairs Committee that those concerns did not relate to Mandelson's relationship with the sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. He declines to say, when questioned by lawmakers, what led the government's vetting agency to flag Mandelson as a potential security risk.
So I'm afraid I walked into a situation in which there was already a very, very strong expectation, and you will have seen the papers released already under the humble address.
The Foreign Office decided to clear him anyways. Robbins was fired by Prime Minister Keir Starmer last week over the decision. Robbins told the committee that there was an atmosphere of pressure coming from Starmer's office. EU foreign ministers met on Monday in Luxembourg to discuss support for Ukraine, rising tensions in the Middle East, and concerns over energy security. Speaking to reporters outside the European Convention Center, many ministers praised the recent election result in Hungary and called for the approval of a €90 billion loan to Ukraine and further sanction packages on Russia.
If we really want to help the ceasefire right now, if we want to help permanent peace in the Middle East, the best we can do is to say clearly the things to Israel, not to look in another direction. We have to be able, as Spanish foreign policy does, to say the same thing in all scenarios in front of anyone. That's what credibility of European Union is about. That's what our citizens in all of our countries here in Europe are expecting, and our friends around the world expect as well. And if someone thinks that suspension is not the right tool, there are many other possibilities that we can do to suspend.
Other ministers raised concerns about continuing settler violence in the West Bank. The Belgian foreign minister called on the EU to suspend its association agreement with Israel. Prevott's Spanish counterpart outlined similar sentiment, calling for discussions on the agreement. Blockade on Iranian ports until a deal has been reached with Tehran, U.S. President Donald Trump has said, amid continuing uncertainty over whether fresh talks to end the war would take place. The blockade, which began a week ago, is absolutely destroying Iran, Trump wrote on his social media platforms, Truth Social, adding his country is winning the conflict by a lot. His comments come with the temporary U.S.-Iran ceasefire set to end on Wednesday.
Since the blockade began, U.S. forces have directed 27 vessels to turn around or return to an Iranian port, according to U.S. Central Command, CENTCOM. The U.S. also intercepted and seized an Iranian flag cargo ship for the first time in the conflict after it tried to get through the blockade on Sunday. Iran has maintained its own blockade on the Strait of Hormuz, a key shipping route, for nearly 2 months, causing global energy prices to soar. It was briefly reopened on Saturday but quickly closed again, following reports of vessels in or near the strait, including a tanker, being targeted by Tehran. Trump said Iran had decided to fire bullets and called it a total violation to the ceasefire agreement. Iran said it will keep the route short until the U.S. stops the blockade of its ports. The potential second round comes at a crucial moment, and sources told the media on Monday afternoon that the U.S. delegation will be leaving soon but did not specify a time. Later on Monday, an Iranian Foreign Ministry spokesperson said that so far Tehran had no plans to attend. Vance is expected to be joined by Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law and advisor Kushner, as in previous round of talks. It is not clear who, if anyone, from Iran's side will be showing up. However, in Islamabad, there are signs of preparation for the talks. Guests at the city's Serena Hotel, where the previous round was held, have been told to leave in preparation for meetings, while police announced the closure of key roads due to the arrival of foreign delegations.
China again urged the United States to immediately cease its blockade sanctions and coercion in any form against Cuba and to do more to contribute to regional peace and stability. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Mao Ning said on Monday, China firmly supports Cuba in safeguarding its national sovereignty and security. Mao said at a regular news briefing when asked to comment on the recent threat U.S. President Donald Trump made against Cuba. For over 6 decades, the United States has been implementing a brutal blockade and illegal sanctions against Cuba, which seriously violate basic international norms, including the purposes and principles of the U.S. Charter. Guo said at a regular news briefing, a blockade and sanctions have severely infringed on Cuba's rights to subsistence and development and wreaked havoc on the Cuban people. Sudan's military chief, General Abdel Fattah Burhan, who chairs the ruling Sovereign Council, arrived in Jeddah on Monday for talks with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman bin Abdulaziz to discuss the latest development in his country and the wider region. At King Abdulaziz Airport in Jeddah, Burhan was welcomed by the Deputy Governor of Makkah region, Prince Said bin Masha bin Abdulaziz. Burhan then met with Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. During their meeting, both sides emphasized the importance of ensuring Sudan's security and stability and preserving its sovereignty, unity, and territorial integrity. The war broke out in Sudan in April 2023 when a power struggle between the military headed by Burhan and the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, headed by Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo, known as Hemedti, exploded into open fighting in the capital, Khartoum. And elsewhere in the sprawling country, the war has killed at least 59,000 people. A 33-year-old Canadian woman has been killed and 13 people injured after a man opened fire at a historical site in Mexico, according to a Mexican official. The gunman killed himself after the attack. President Claudia Sheinbaum of Mexico has expressed her solidarity with the victims of a shooting at one of the country's most important tourist destinations, the ancient pyramid complex of Tiantianchan. It comes with 7 weeks to go before the first match of the FIFA World Cup is held in Mexico City. Local prosecutors identified the shooter as Julio Cesar Jasso Ramirez, a Mexican national, without providing further details. The pre-Hispanic pyramids and ruins at the site are a UNESCO World Heritage Site and among the most popular tourist attractions in the country. Police recovered a firearm and bladed weapon and live cartridges at the scene. A woman and a child jumped from a rooftop to escape a mass shooting in Shreveport, Louisiana, where authorities say a father fatally shot 8 children, including 7 of his own. Officials said they were first alerted to the gun attack in the emergency phone on Sunday. The caller reported they were on top of the house while the suspect remained inside. Police did not, however, identify the survivors or disclose their connections to the attacker, but said both were in stable condition.
The suspect died following a gun battle with officers, though it remains unclear whether he took his own life or was killed by the police. 2 adult women, including the children's mother, were also hurt by gunfire, and both were recovering in hospital. A 9th child was taken to the hospital after jumping from the roof of the home while escaping. Among the 8 children killed in the shooting, siblings and 1 cousin, were 3 boys and 5 girls. They ranged in age from 3 to 11, according to authorities. Recalling the chain of events on Monday, Police Chief Wayne Smith said that within minutes of the initial emergency call, the caller on the roof reported that she and her children had fled from the roof and were now in the backyard. Minutes later, the gunman attacked another home, where a different emergency caller told police that her boyfriend had shot her, taking her 3 children and fleeing the scene. Shortly after the call, police received a report of a carjacking and information that led them to believe that children taken from the second resident may be inside that vehicle. At about 6:29, officers located the suspect and exchanged gunfire with him. The suspect was found dead at the scene with no children inside the car. Police have not yet established a motive. Chief Smith said the suspect, identified as Shama Elkins, had a criminal history but did not provide further details.
South Africa's police chief has been formally charged with failing in his duties to provide proper oversight in his role following a health contract that has become the subject of a criminal investigation. General Fanny Masemola, who is 62-year-old, was summoned to court over his alleged part in the awarding of a controversial $21 million tender. The charges include violating part of South Africa's Public Finance Management Act, which governs how public finances are managed. The case comes amidst a national inquiry examining allegedly widespread corruption involving police officers and politicians. He told journalists after the hearing that he denied the charges. His case has been postponed until 13th of May, when Masemola will join the 16 others, including senior police officers and Matlala, in the case. The allegations of how Matlala got the contract were made at an inquiry known as the Madlanga Commission, set up by President Cyril Ramaphosa last September to look into the corruption in the police force. Children ran alongside the road and crowds waved as Pope Leo XIV traveled in the Pope Mobile, greeting people lining the route in Sorima in northwestern Angola. Pope Leo XIV traveled to Sorima on Monday, where he visited a nursing home for the elderly. The Pope also visited the Cathedral of Our Lady of the Assumption, where he offered his prayers during a brief stopover.
Pope Leo XIV celebrated Mass in the northeastern Angolan city of Sorima on Monday as his Africa trip continues. Local officials said thousands gathered on the hot sun to hear the pontiff speak. Before Mass, he met with the elderly residents of a nursing home. The Pope arrived in the Portuguese-speaking nation of Angola on Saturday for the 3rd leg of his 4-nation tour of the continent. He heads on Tuesday to Equatorial Guinea for the final leg of his African journey, arriving in a country that presents perhaps the most diplomatically delicate challenge of his trip and his young papacy. On Sunday, Leo prayed at a Catholic shrine located at the site of an important hub of the African slave trade during Portugal's colonial rule, recalling the sorrow and great suffering Angolans endured for centuries. The sanctuary of Mama Muxima, nestled in the Angolan savannas of the baobab tree at the edge of the Kwanza River, became a major pilgrimage destination after believers reported an appearance by the Virgin Mary around 1833. Leo's arrival in Angola, the oil and mineral-rich former Portuguese colony, marked the third leg of his four-nation African trip.
Apple has named John Tenners as its new chief executive to replace Tim Cook, who is stepping down after 15 years of leading the technology giant. Tenners, the current head of hardware engineering, who has been at Apple for 25 years, will take over on September 1st and become the executive chairman. Cook will become the executive chairman.
Cook has been chief executive of Apple since 2011, after co-founder Steve Jobs resigned for health reasons shortly before his death. Cook will stay as chief executive through the summer to work with Tenners on the transition, after which he will assist to certain aspects of the company, including engaging with policymakers around the world. Cook's decision to step away from the chief executive role follows months of speculation that Apple, which has just celebrated its 50th anniversary, was looking for a successor. He described the job as a great privilege, and during his tenure, he led the company to become one of the most valuable in the world. In 2018, Apple became the first public company to be valued at $1 trillion. It is now worth $4 trillion. Tenners emerged as a favorite to replace Cook last year. After another long-time executive, Chief Operating Officer Jeff Williams left the company. During his quarter-century at Apple, Tenners has worked on essentially every major product the company has released, including every generation of the iPod, many generations of the iPhone, and the launch of AirPods and the Apple Watch. He also oversaw the transition of Mac computer processors from Intel to Apple's own silicon. One of the most significant product launches during Cook's leadership was the Apple Vision Pro, a virtual and augmented reality headset that did not catch on with buyers. Nevertheless, his skill as an operational executive will only see him widely remembered as one of the most successful business leaders.
And the Kaduna State High Court has adjourned ruling on the bail application of former State Governor Nasir El-Rufai, and he's to remain in ICPC custody pending the decision.
The Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission had earlier amended its charges, leaving the former governor as the sole defendant in the case after hearing arguments on the bail application over a 9-count charge bordering on alleged fraud, abuse of office, and corruption. The presiding judge, Justice Darius Kogo, fixed the first week of June for ruling. Counsel to the former governor, Ubong Agban, expressed disagreement with the court position, particularly over concerns that his client would interfere with ongoing investigations.
For he's not entitled to bail in an allegation of financial impropriety. So we are grateful with Lord for the learning that he has shown, but we respectfully disagree.
Some associates of the former governor also shared similar views.
Expedited hearing, we were thinking that it will start by next week. Today is Tuesday, and then expedited hearing is set to commence in June. Is that something that we didn't know? You know, because why the entire month of May and even the balance of part of, April, about 10 days to the end of April, no one is talking about the hearing.
The matter has now been adjourned to the first week of June for ruling on the bail application and continuation of proceedings. Bimaja Moses, AIT News, Kaduna.
And ministers who are responsible for water resources across West Africa are leading fresh efforts to strengthen water security and sanitation as they converge on Abuja. for a high-level consultation under the African Ministers' Council of Water. The meeting, in collaboration with the federal government of Nigeria, is focused on developing a comprehensive implementation plan for the Africa Water Vision 2063, with clear priorities, financing frameworks, with institutional strategies to drive results across the sub-region from 2026 to 2033.
Working to develop a new implementation plan to boost water security and sanitation under the Africa Water Vision 2063. Nigeria's Minister of Water Resources, Professor Joseph Youssef, says the plan will provide clear direction, funding strategies, and institutional support to improve service delivery between 2026 and 2033.
Our key objectives include green or regional priorities and measurable targets aligning with the African Vision 2063 and Agenda 2063.
Other stakeholders, including Mukela Babarinde, Nelson Gamunda, and Economic Community of West African States representatives, stressed the need for practical, inclusive, and well-funded actions. They warned that climate change, population growth, and infrastructure gaps remain major challenges.
Resources that we have, need water. Obviously, we need to ensure that quality is not compromised because there's a lot of pollution.
This meeting, Excellency, provides our member states and stakeholders an opportunity to identify key priorities, but also activities that we need to put in place if we are to achieve the new vision and policy.
The consultation is expected to produce a draft plan for adoption by the African Union, marking a key step toward sustainable water management across the region.
And President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved a minor cabinet reshuffle in the membership of the Federal Executive Council. According to a memo signed by Security, the Secretary to the government. For the has been directed to handle Oyedele, who is now to take over as Minister of Finance and coordinating Minister of the Economy. Oyedele was formerly a Minister of State in the ministry. Also, Mataka Rabe Darama has been named as the Ministerial nominee and Minister designate for the Housing and Urban Development Ministry. The memo also directed Danduwa to hand over to the Minister of State in the ministry. The memo stated that all handing over and taking over processes should be completed on or before close of business on Thursday, 23rd of April, 2026. The President thanked the outgoing ministers for their services to the nation while wishing them the best in all their future endeavors. The President Akume noted, equally assured all cabinet members that the process of revigorating shall be continuous. The Nigerian Guild of Editors expresses grave concern over the reported threat by the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission, NBC, to sanction broadcast presenters for allegedly presenting personal opinions as fact or for bullying guests on air. The group says it considers it such a move dangerous and injurious to journalism as it amounts to a direct assault on the principles of press freedom, editorial independence, and democratic accountability. The Guild noted that while it acknowledges that the NBC may be motivated by a desire to promote professionalism and uphold ethical standards in broadcasting, the Commission's vague and broadly worded statement is open to multiple interpretations. It says such ambiguity creates room for misuse, as it may be selectively applied or misinterpreted in ways that unfairly target journalists and media organizations carrying out their legitimate duties. The Guild reiterates that the role of broadcast presenters and journalists, particularly during interviews, is to ask probing questions challenge inconsistencies and demand clarity in the public interest. It says journalism is not designed to place public officials on or interviewees in a comfort zone, but to hold power accountable. The Guild of Editors therefore urged regulatory bodies to operate within clearly defined, transparent, and fair frameworks that do not undermine the independence of the media. And that's the world news on Kakaki, the African Voice this morning. Thank you for staying with us. Up next on the program is Kakaki Business.
Welcome to Kakaki Business. Japan's on Tuesday unveiled its biggest overhaul of defense export rules in decades, scrapping restrictions on overseas arms sales and opening the way for exports of warship, missiles, and other weapons. The move aimed at strengthening Japan's defense industrial base marks another step away from the pacifist restraint that have shaped its post-war security policy. It has been made in tandem with effort to deepen ties with other nations in Asia to counter China's growing regional influence. The revision removes 5 export categories that had limited most military export to rescue, transport, warning, surveillance, and mine-sweeping equipment. Japan will keep in place 3 export principles that commit it to strict screening, controls on transfer to third countries, and a ban on sales to countries involved in conflicts. But in a presentation outlining the changes, the government said exceptions could be made when deemed necessary for national security. Apple has named John Tenners as its new chief executive to replace Tim Cook, who is stepping down after 15 years of leading the technology giant. Tenners, the current head of hardware engineering, who has been at Apple for 25 years, will take over on September 1st, and Cook will become executive chairman. Cook's decision to step away from the chief executive role follows months of speculation that Apple was looking for a successor. Tenners, who joined Apple in 2001, has played a central role in reviving products such as the Mac computer and been deeply involved in shaping Apple's biggest products such as iPads and AirPods. Analysts have speculated that with new leadership, the company may be looking to pursue deeper integration of AI into its products. U.S. Trade Representative Jamison Greer has told Mexico auto and steel industries they should not expect the renegotiation of the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement to remove President Donald Trump's tariff on their sector. Greer made the comment to the industry groups and other top business leaders in meeting in Mexico City to discuss goals for revamping the USMCA. The representative met with the American Chamber of Commerce of Mexico, Mexico's Business Coordinating Council, the Mexican Automotive Industry, and National Chamber of the Iron and Steel Industry, among other groups. After the meeting, Greer and Mexican Economy Minister Marcelo Ebrard issued a joint statement saying they agreed to launch formal bilateral negotiations to work out U.S.-Mexico issues in the USMCA during the week of May 25 in Mexico City. They said the two sides will continue technical talks this week on economic security, strengthening rules of origin for key industrial goods, collaboration on critical minerals, and bilateral trade irritants. South African business confidence weakened to a 5-month low in March, dragged down by a weaker rand, slowdown in trade, and share price falls linked to the Iran war, data showed on Tuesday. The South African Chamber of Commerce and Industry Business Confidence Index fell to 131.3 in March from 134.6 in February. The chamber said business unease was reflected in weaker real economic activity, including stifled retail trade and export volumes. Businesses were concerned about the supply and cost of energy because of the Middle East conflict. However, it says South Africa was in a fortunate position thanks to an exceptional increase in business confidence late last year, which was mitigating the impact of the Iran conflict to some extent. With tensions still brewing in the Middle East, analysts anticipate a likely revision of the government's 1.6% growth forecast for 2026. Germany's zero indicator of economic sentiment plunged by 16.7 points to minus 17.2 in April 2026, marking its lowest level since December 2022 and falling far short of market expectations of minus 5. The sharp decline following March's third largest monthly drop in the indicator's history reflects deepening pessimism as the escalating Middle East conflict weighs on Germany's economic outlook. ZIWI President Professor Achim Wambach warned that Iran's war impact extends beyond rising prices, with fears of long-term energy shortages, dampening investment and undermining government stimulus efforts. Sectoral expectations remain heavily affected. While the automotive industry stayed relatively stable, outlook for the chemical and pharmaceutical sectors and steel metal production deteriorated sharply. Meanwhile, construction sector expectations slipped into negative territory, declining by 3.8%. Nigeria imported about 61.7 million barrels of crude oil from the United States between January 2024 and January 2026, highlighting rising reliance on foreign feedstock to support domestic refining. The surge follows the start-up of Dangote Refinery 2024, which has driven demand for imported crude amid local supply constraints. Imports rose sharply in 2025, peaking at over 300,000 barrels per day in June. This comes despite Nigeria exporting over 300 million barrels of crude in the first 10 months of 2025 and 55.39 million barrels in January and February 2026. The trend reflects a supply imbalance in Nigeria's oil sector, where high crude export coexists with limited availability of base material for domestic refineries, leading operators to supplement with imports from the United States and other countries. And that's Kakaki Business. Good morning.
Focus Nigeria. It's a huge task, but we take it on.
Where is the law? National Assembly is not doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria. It is America that is doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria.
Monday to Friday on Focus Nigeria, we identify the nagging issues.
Some people put people in poverty deliberately, deliberate misplacement of priorities, and brought people on their knees to suffer.
We seek answers to the tough challenges.
And because of
the former president, what I know is that he has not turned his membership card.
Has not been attending your meeting.
Leave that to us to deal.
There's no shying away from the issues.
The system is held accountable. The leaders are accountable for the funds, for the resources that they manage.
No sitting on the fence.
The same thing that made you live where you are may confront you.
Focus Nigeria, 10 a.m., Monday to Friday on AIT. Issues as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
And our governments seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go. Every part of this country is important.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe it was for that reason in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth.
Parliament.
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m. The stories now break online. Don't miss anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe, engage, and share from AIT.live at AIT_online on X, AIT Online on Facebook, Official AIT Live on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads on YouTube. Stay connected with AIT. On air, online, on live. People, politics, and power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics, and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics, and Power with Imoni Amarere.
Will low-performing agencies be held to account? Or will the numbers fade after the headlines?
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being there and welcome back to the program. If you are assuming that I'm alone, your assumption was and is wrong, and that's because I have Chukuyeno Owoka here with me. Hello, Chuks.
Yeah, good morning,
Kedu?
Odima.
You know that one.
Yes, very simple to answer. It's great to be here Wednesday morning. You know, so much happening in the country as well, and we just hope that we'll move on from it as a nation, but it's really a critical moment for us as a nation.
Yeah, man, I think that even leads us to our next report coming in from Jos.
Yes, absolutely. And this next report is on the viral torture video of John Azzi, who's a graduate of the University of Jos. Now, he was being severely dehumanized, you know, by his abductors, and this has sparked outrage among social media users across Nigeria for the past 1 week. And the young technician was traveling to Kaduna for work when he found himself in the net of kidnappers, who later sent a video showing him being held at gunpoint. And this was a very sad one. Our colleague went to speak with his family as well to get a reaction from them. And also just a bit of a warning, you know, some of these images might be triggering for you. Let's take a look.
It was meant to be a routine trip for 28-year-old John Arum Azzi, a recent graduate awaiting his National Youth Service mobilization. John had built a reputation as a diligent technician, repairing musical equipment to support his family. But his journey from Jos to Kaduna ended in terror when he and 6 others were intercepted along the highway. Distressing footage soon surfaced, showing John being brutalized by his captors while they demanded a ransom, initially set at 30 million naira.
This boy is my blood. And when you see your own brother being beaten like that, honestly, I have to tell you the truth. To some extent, I cannot continue watching the video.
The situation has since grown more dire. A second video released by his kidnappers shows John kneeling while at gunpoint. In the footage, he reveals that they have been moved to Zamfara State, as the abductors threaten his life if payment is not made immediately. It is not clear whether the new location of Zamfara is a decoy move by his abductors to evade capture, as it appears from the beginning of the footage that John was being directed on what to say.
Security agencies and experts, particularly using technology, could analyze the second video and actually identify the exact location. Every video has an originating IP address, and it could be used to get the GPS coordinates
While the ransom demand has reportedly been slashed to 4 million naira, the burden remains insurmountable for his family.
I would like to see him back. By God's grace, I will see him back.
At their residence in Jos, sympathizers have gathered to support John's mother, a widow who lost her husband 15 years ago and had come to rely on John as the family's primary breadwinner. What is this? I don't have anything. I just want my son back, and I am trusting God about it. He just went out to earn a living, and he was kidnapped. As the University of Jos alumni and youth groups call for swift government intervention, John's ordeal serves as a stark reminder to the mounting insecurity plaguing the nation's highways. For this family, every passing hour is a desperate prayer for his safe return. Walker's Quackfoot, AIT News, Jos.
Welcome back from that report there from Jos by Walker's Quackfoot. And it's a very sad one indeed, you know, what's happening to that young man. And to think that there are other people who probably we don't even know about because their stories have not made it to social media. And every day when I wake up, I begin to think, when I see videos like this or stories like this of kidnapping, like, how many people can Nigerians actually crowdfund for to save? Like, when does it reach that? And everybody just says that, I mean, I don't have any money to support, again, in raising, you know, ransoms. Like, when do we say enough is enough to actually tackle insecurity? Not lip service, not saying we're using kinetic forces, we're using men on ground or whatever. Like, actually target these guys in where they're hiding. If you know who these people are, which we've heard over and over, you know, why have we not had a resolution, you know, to this? And we keep seeing statements like accusing fingers, or if the government cannot solve this, that means they have a hand in this and all of that on social media. So you just begin to ask, who does this really benefit? Because it doesn't benefit me, it doesn't benefit you when we see, you know, our fellow Nigerians going through this.
I mean, it's sad. And that video, you know, I saw that and I could not even use it on Kakaki social because it was disturbing for me. I could not watch it and I just assumed, and I believe that there will be 1,001 people like me as well who will not be able to withstand that. And I listened to the elder brother, or the brother, I don't know if he's elder or older, he just said that he could not even watch the video as well. I mean, who would even withstand? Even the most wicked of us may not be able to withstand that video. And they're talking of a loved one. 30 million naira, the breadwinner of a family who just graduated. I mean, it's so sad, it's unfortunate. And as you mentioned, we don't even have an idea, the real math, the real data and statistics of people who are held back right now and who want intervention. I mean, how much can we crowdfund, as you also ask? How much can we raise, and how often are we going to continue to raise all of this fund and call for donation? That video has been on the space of social media for over a week, and it's been on top of the conversation. 30 whole million naira for that family. If we can judge with the visuals that we saw, you would know that, as we say, even if you raise them up and hit them on the floor, it's going to be almost impossible for them to raise that million. They would not even be there for a widow, and it's so sad to see. I really hope that John's case raises the awareness that we need to see a total end to insecurity in this part of the world, and it's so sad. We really hope that what we have will be the last of it.
Yes, absolutely. And at this time, we have to take social intervention on the show. Do stay with us, don't go anywhere.
And welcome to Get Fit in 60 Seconds with Jolly Phillips. Now, everyone has 60 seconds in every day to spare. So if you're ready, let's go! Well done! I hope you had a great workout. Anyway, what I need you to do is to follow us on Instagram at Alpha Fitness Studios and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Alpha Fitness Studios, for free workout videos, free dance videos, sales and promos, and make sure you join us at the gym, Alpha Fitness Studios in Lekki Phase 1 next time you're in Lagos. So until the next time, bye-bye!
Hello, great people of Nigeria. Welcome to the Leadership Clinic. Today I'll be speaking on understanding personal responsibility. Your life is your responsibility, not mine, not your parents, not the government, not your boss, not your spouse. It is yours. I remember the most powerful experience that I had over a period of time, and I then actually shouted to myself, my life does not depend on a third party. If I must become outstanding and successful, it is my responsibility to make it happen. So I know it's easier to blame the economy when things are not working. It's easier to blame your background, where you're coming from. In fact, you might even need to know that most of the people who have become successful today came from very poor background, challenging backgrounds. Leaders that have made a difference most of the time, came from certain environment that you couldn't even imagine that these individuals will ever become successful. But guess what? They actually became successful because they took responsibility and they drove their future with vision and excellence. But you can control how you respond. The truth of the matter is that you can control how you respond to the system. So you want to stop reacting. Every leader takes responsibility. You cannot control where you were born into, but you can control where you stay going forward. You cannot control your boss. You say your boss is difficult, but guess what? You can control your attitude. The moment you take full responsibility of your life or for your life, the most important thing that happens to you is that you take back your power to succeed, your power to stand out, your power to make a difference, your power to become a voice. Because when you blame others, you give them power over your future. But when you say, this is on me, I figure it out, I will do what it takes to become unstoppable. In fact, even when you make mistakes, all of us make mistakes, including me. But the ability to be able to own up and say, I have made the mistake, I have failed somebody, and I take responsibility for that. We live in a generation where a lot of people are not taking responsibility for anything. The political class must take responsibility for the growth of this country, for the transformation of this country, and no blame game. If power has fallen on you as a leader, it's your responsibility to make it to work. Great people, you must understand this concept, because when you stop playing in the game of blaming others, you own your mistakes. When something goes wrong, don't make the excuses to say, oh, it wasn't my fault. Find ways to fix it. Take action, as intention without action is nothing. Do something today to improve your situation. Your life changes when you stop being a victim of life challenges and circumstances. Your life can take a positive turnaround if you can only understand that leaders that have shaped the world, leaders that have built institutions, leaders that have created wealth and value, took responsibility, found a vision, and gave their lives towards the pursuit of the vision. That's why they succeeded. Great people of Nigeria, you must remember, if a man does not have a purpose for waking up, sleeping becomes interesting.
Have you ever wondered why your spouse humiliates you in public but adores you in private? Now, each of us has been in the uncomfortable situation of having to hang out with another couple that sees no wrong in belittling or nagging one another in public. Perhaps the wife makes a comment about what the husband must do or what he should be wearing. The husband may tell the wife something that she cannot do or correct her in front of someone else. Or you may be married to one of the many people in this world who don't understand the shame and humiliation that occurs when another adult, especially a spouse, calls them out in front of others and corrects them. It is an embarrassing and frustrating thing to watch or be victim to. So why do spouses do this? Correcting your spouse in public is very, very wrong. A marriage is supposed to be about two people who love and respect one another equally. If one spouse feels that they have the right to humiliate or embarrass the spouse in public or in private, what exactly does this say about the marriage itself? Some things should be kept private, and the hope is that by the time people are matured enough to be married, they should understand both proper etiquette and the rules of engagement, which clearly dictates that some things should remain private. So if your spouse shames, disgraces, fronts, or corrects you in public, the first step is to confront your spouse but in private, of course, and that you are well armed with specifics so that you can explain to him or her exactly what you mean, then it may be a good idea to come up with a signal between the two of you should this happen again. You can communicate your discontent without retaliating. Couples who are having marital troubles also will correct each other in public as a means to have things arbitrated, of course. The hope is that people around will see things their way, but most often it causes others to form terrible impressions about both of you, but most especially the spouse who keeps disgracing the other in public. So stop criticizing your spouse to others. Stop sharing the details of your love life. Stop treating your spouse like a child. The bottom line is that no spouse is above the other, and it is an adult-to-adult relationship and should always be respected as that. Do not forget, children learn what you do and what they see, so stop it. Honestly, that's my 2 kobo.
People, politics, and power brings context and clarity to issues and events in governance, democracy, and development. On People, Politics, and Power, we feature people who shape the events and define the issues.
A lot of the agencies are still struggling with implementation of freedom of information.
The government should come. We need Nigeria to work.
We examine the interplay and interaction of politics with power and their impact on policies and the people.
It's about getting the system to deliver the kind of electoral outcome that people will be happy with.
People, Politics, and Power with Imoni Amarere.
Will low-performing agencies be held to account? Or will the numbers fade after the headlines?
At 1 p.m. every Monday and Friday on AIT.
Anything from our real-time updates and exclusive content. Follow and participate in discussions on live TV studio programs to shape the narratives. Subscribe.
Welcome back to Kakaki, the African Voice, and it's time for us to take a look at what the dailies are saying this morning. It's 7:08. We're starting off with the front page of the Daybreak. We have Tinubu axes Edun, Dangiwa in shock cabinet purge. Oyedele named finance minister. That's a page 2 read from the Daybreak newspaper there.
All right, same story. The authority has, it says, Tinubu sacks finance, housing ministers. Oyedele replaces Edun.
Now moving on to the daily assets. Tinubu restructures economic team, drops Wale Edun. Dangiwa Oyedele steps in as finance minister. Housing ministry gets new nominee. Presidency cites drive for stronger coordination. Page 2 of the daily assets.
All right, this Nigeria says Edun. It's over. President Tinubu fires longtime ally as finance minister over economic pressure, policy differences, and strategy. Taxman Oyedele steps in.
To the Daily Sun, more ministers may go as Tinubu sacks Edun. Dangiwa Oyedele, now finance minister, as experts react. Page 25 of the Daily Sun.
And from there, we go over to Standard Times Nigeria. It says, Cabinet reshuffle. Tinubu sacks finance, housing ministers. Oyedele Darama to take over.
Now, moving on to the Whistler, we have amid claims of missing revenue, Tinubu sacks Edun Dangiwa as ministers, elevates Oyedele as coordinating minister for the economy. That's a page 9 read. And just looking at another rider there, NAF airstrikes kills several terrorists in Sambisa Forest, page 6 of the Whistler.
And the same story says Observer's Time that Cabinet shake-up. Tinubu sacks Wale Edun, appoints Taiwo Oyedele as finance minister. One of the riders says Housing Minister Ahmed Dangiwa also relieved of duties in major executive reshuffle.
To the Daily Global, we have Tinubu reshuffles cabinet as Oyedele becomes finance minister. And that's the major headline there from the Daily Global.
Well, leadership tells us the same story, but differently. It says why Tinubu removed Wale Edun Dangiwa. That's on page 4 of his paper this morning. One writer says Oyedele becomes new finance minister as president nominates Darma to replace Dangiwa.
All right, now the blueprint goes with a different headline here. For coup plotting, FG found 13 counts charge against Silva, retired general, 5 others. Suspects linked to 69.8 million naira for alleged terrorism financing.
And then the Daily Monitor says appeal court dismisses Abure's case, affirms Nenadi Osman's leadership. And the writer says Abure rejects appeal court decision, heads to Supreme Court.
And now to Al Jazeera, Nigeria, we have return of COVID-19 as Cross River confirms outbreak. Index case, a Chinese arrived Nigeria from China March 17, says Commissioner, page 9 of Al Jazeera, Nigeria.
To the Business NG, it says Nigeria's healthcare system under pressure as 4,691 doctors moved to UK in 3 years. That's according to data by GMC.
All right, so, and those are the dailies for this morning that we'll be taking a look at. Before we get into the stories, let's introduce our reviewers, starting off with Iyobosa Ugiaren. Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Ugiaren. All right. And also Simon Reef Musa as well. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to join you.
Thank you for joining us. Yeah. All right, let's begin the conversation this morning. We're starting from the story that many newspapers have: Daybreak, Observer's Time, Daily Global Authority, as well as Daily Asset, talking about Tinubu, Axis Edun, Kangiwa in shock, cabinet reshuffle. How did this meet you? They call it minor reshuffle.
Well, there might be two perspectives to it. Okay. For some, he was removed because the man was not very competent in discharging his responsibility given to him by the president. I saw a video trending where the staff of the Ministry of Finance were celebrating yesterday. It shows that he was not at home with what he's doing. He was not at home with his workers in the Ministry of Finance. And that is another perspective, that the guy was removed because his guy was very, very incompetent. So, and the other perspective is that where he left on head ground. And of course, we know last year how he traveled abroad for medical attention. But let us go back to history. This is not the first time the Minister of Finance will be leaving Tinubu's cabinet on head ground. When he was the Commissioner for Finance in Lagos State, under the current president, when the president was the governor of Lagos State, I think it was around 2004, a year to the second term of Tinubu as governor of Lagos State, Edun also resigned as Commissioner for Finance on head ground. And that was when he was a governor. He also resigned on head ground. Now, if you know the person is not well, yes, when you were governor of Lagos State, how come you reappointed him as Minister of Finance when you became President of Federal Republic of Nigeria? So for me, it's just maybe an attempt to reward loyalists and all that. And at the end of the day, they end up not doing the job given to them. So if you are relieving of his position now as the Minister of Finance on head ground, the man is just about 70 years old. He did the same thing when you were a Commissioner for Finance in Lagos State, second term of your office. And the man also resigned on head grant. So why reappointed him as minister? Why did you reappointed him as minister of finance? So it shows the kind of system we have in Nigeria. It's not just Edun. There are several ministers I can never remember their name who are working under the present government. They don't even remember their name. And which shows that it's either they are not doing their job or they are not competent, you know, in the strategic responsibility given to them by the president. And there are several cases, you know. And something that some Minister of Finance workers, you know, have against the minister. It's just that there's a budget, you know, to get the man to release funds for ministries and agencies to do their job. You know, it's a major problem. Yeah. You were told recently, I think from the sources from the Ministry of Defense, that out of the huge budget that was approved for Ministry of Defense, less than 7% of that fund was released.
Even with the health minister also came out.
Exactly, the Minister of Finance recently. So less than 7% for a ministry, you know, that is waging war against terrorists, that require huge funds, you know, to service their vehicle, to service their equipment, to buy more equipment and weapons. You release less than 7% of that fund to that strategic ministries. For me, it was, I call it sabotage. It's real sabotage. So I'm not surprised that the president, you know, fired him, whether on head grant, I don't give a damn. Okay. Yeah, the man was very incompetent, as far as I know.
Before Simon Reeve comes in, the Whistler says, amid claims of missing revenue, Tinubu sacks Edun Dangiwa as minister. So that's another angle to that sacking.
Yes, I think before now, or before yesterday, many people thought that Wale Edun was untouchable. But of course, yesterday proved a contrary point, because the president came out and said, well, he has to go. Now, like my friend has said, health ground is there. But again, there is this idea that when people want to get money, getting the man to sign the approval, even if the president approves, he will tell you there's no money. And I think one fact that I know was that the man was also opposed to all these loans. He made sources within the presidency. No, the man, his views were not in line, were not completely in line with that of the president. So it shocked so many people why he had to stay so long at this point. Let me tell you, when this World Bank tells you that 34-point-something trillion has diverted or has disappeared or has gone missing, they have a point, whether you like it or not. Because how much of the 2024 and 2025 budget did you implement? And again, we see that in all those years, 2024, 2025, there were money that were borrowed to implement that budget, those budget. But it's very, very clear, not much has been seen. Let me tell you one disturbing scenario. There is this rule in government that before 31st of every year, you have to retire to the Federal Treasury money that are unspent. The question we ask ourselves, how sincere were parasita, were ministry, were government bodies or agencies doing that? I will tell you that most of them simply, reserve that day to be a time where they just help themselves with the unspent funds. And they do that in strict collaboration with people that are supposed to audit, with the people that are supposed to do the accounting system. And nothing is done. So the World Bank has a reason. The World Bank cannot simply say, we are tracking this fund and we've not seen it, because they don't have much interest. They are only alerting Nigerians. There's also amount was missing. And what I expected is the National Assembly, members of the National Assembly, to look into the books. If you look into the books, you will now understand what happened. So it's not the idea of the Ministry of Finance coming here, they say, no, there were no diversions, there was no this. No, the appropriate committees in both the Red Chamber and the Green Chamber should look into it. Of course, there are so many of them. The NNPC was looking into this, about 210 trillion naira missing from NNPC. Up to now, we've not heard about it. We've had stories of how some lawmakers have reached out to NNPC to help them, to give them money, and they, cover up. So I want to really note that the sacking, whether he was relieved of his appointment or whether he was sacked, Honestly, it is a good news.
Okay. Before today, you mentioned two perspectives. There are those who are of the third perspective, which for them will be the ethnic card, sort of. When Doris Uzoka-Anite was redeployed for the third time. She's in her third office in this administration. Yeah. You know, first she was minister, then she was demoted from demotion to same level, but in another ministry when she made room for Taiwo Oyedele. Well, people said that at the time, predicted clearly. I read a tweet on Kakaki Social that said, this is just a process to replacing Wale Edun. And when that replacement comes, when Doris Anite would have been the minister, Oyedele will instead then be. And that's because the president wants his tribe men to be the head of affairs. And clearly for people, this is a reward for the taxman Oyedele for helping him widen the tax net and for reducing our purchasing power. Would you also look at it at that point? Bearing in mind the contradiction that Simon Reeve mentioned, that last year the president has said that we met the revenue target by September, but the minister came out to say we did not.
You see, let me make this very, very clear. I have looked at the profile of the one that was just sacked down, Edun, you know. I've also looked at the profile of the current one that's just been appointed now, Oyedele, and the woman that you just mentioned, the Minister of State for Finance. If you look at their profile does not suggest that they have the experience to be Minister for Finance. Don't forget that position was elevated when Okojo-Iweala was the Minister for Finance under Obasanjo, under Goodluck Jonathan and other. And that's a woman with a global, you know, global experience. Somebody who understands the working of the global financial institutions, the World Bank, the IMF, and somebody's going on with the economy, somebody who can pick a phone call and call the MD of the World Bank, of the IMF, and say, look, you got these things wrong and all that. So, and that position was elevated. So it means that whenever you are making an appointment from that office, because it's the coordinating ministers, economic coordinating ministers of the entire country. So when you begin to appoint people who has experience of bookkeeping, not even accounting, bookkeeping, as ministers for finance, then we'll have a major problem. And I think that is the problem with Edun. Check his profile. Check the profile of this one that was appointed as Minister for Finance. They don't have that global experience, you know, to be Minister of Finance and coordinating economic coordinators. Because when Edun was appointed as commissioner, even in a state like Lagos State that time, and up to now, in fact, the politics of the global economy has changed. When 21st centuries, for God's sake, if you appoint somebody as a minister for finance and coordinating economy, I'm a coordinator of the entire economy of a country with almost about 230 million people, that person should be well versed in managing the economy. So Edun is not there. Oyedele is not there. The Minister for State for Finance that was removed, that was deployed to Budget Ministry, was not there at all. So I think that is the lessons that we need to learn. And there are so many people who were given appointment based on political considerations, not because they fit into that position. So many of them are there. Look at the current Minister for Power, who has spent how many years now? Almost 3 years now doing nothing. All the man is interested in, he wants to be governor of Oyo State.
And I think Oluseyi just said on our comment section on YouTube, why is Adelabu still the Minister of Power?
But if you look at Adelabu, that we were diverted into, but he's done things for the government in terms of making more funds for them. I'm not defending him,
I don't have that record.
In terms of how much the tariff now is for electricity, everybody is classified into band A's, B, and C's, which a lot of people have come out to say is illegal. But there wasn't any, should I say, a lot of pushback or fire under his seat after all of that happened. And if we're paying more for electricity tariff, it means that they are making, you know, more money as well. So, I mean, from the government angle, he's done a good job for them.
You see, if you also ask those who are managing the power sectors, they will tell you that they are not making any money. And that's why recently there was a major issue, and they went to the president and said, look, we are in crisis. Okay. All the powers, you know, players in the world players in the power sectors are almost gone and that we need to be paid some money. And the president assured them that a huge amount of money will be given to them so that we can stabilize the power supply in the entire country. And that's why in the last few days, things is gradually changing, you know. So even the power sector is even broke. So to say that they are making money, I mean, compared to before, I think I don't have that statistic, so I will not be able to make informed comment as far as that issue is concerned.
Okay.
But the point I'm making is that there are so many incompetent ministers in this government, and the earlier the presidents do away with them, the better for this country.
All right, let's look at the blueprint this morning. It says, for coup plotting, federal government files 13-count charge against Silva, retired general, and 5 others. Suspects linked to 69.8 million naira for alleged terrorism financing. And the second rider says, police inspector receives least sum of 1 million naira. Simon Reef.
Well, I think when I read that story that finally the coup plotters, or those that were alleged to be involved in coup, going to be taken to court today or so, I was happy because what they did, what they allegedly did, at least they had to have their day in court. I'm happy that finally they're having their day in court. I'm very happy also that they've sent that signal that democracy, whether we like it or not, is not the democracy that we want, the various forms of democracy that we have. Government wants to ensure that things are done the proper way. But again, what I would only advise the government is to ensure that the trials goes unhindered and speedily. And again, because we are almost in an election period, the focus may not be on that. Let the courts do their job and make sure that at the end of the day, who is found guilty is made to face the long arm of the law. So to me, it's commendable they've started. So let's see how it rolls.
Yeah, for me, I think that is the way to go. Because if people are accused of serious crime like that, all you need to do is to investigate and take them to court so that they will have their days in court. And if they are innocent, the court will determine their fate. If they are guilty, of course, the court will also determine their fate. But one thing I'm happy about is that before now, there was argument whether those alleged coup plotters should be charged before the military tribunal or a civil court like the Federal High Court. But I'm happy that the Office of the Attorney General had decided to charge them to Federal High Court, because under a civilian government, under the democracy, all criminal charges must be taken to a civil court. We're not in a military regime. So I'm happy that the Office of the Attorney General eventually took that decision to arrange them before a competent court of law. That's the civil court. Let them have their days, and if they can prove that they were innocent, of course the court will determine that. But one thing we must have at the back of our mind, no matter the kind of dysfunctional system we have in our democracy today, military coup is not an option. Where the Gen Z, those who were not born during the military regime, might not understand what we are talking about. One of the darkest days we had in this country since independence was during the military regime, where as journalists were players in the system, and we are aware of what we suffered during the military regime. You know, today, because of democracy, we can come to the studio and review newspapers, criticize governments, put governments on their tone. Under the military regime, as you are here, they are waiting for you outside the AIT premises. As you are living here, they are taking you inside the car, take you to prisons, and forget you there until when they remember that, oh, we have somebody there. And so many of our colleagues, journalists, suffered. So many of them were killed. Some of them were sentenced to life jail. Like this coup issue now, some journalists would have been arraigned because they had access, they had information that they were going to be coup, and they didn't raise the alarm. So many journalists were arraigned before a military tribunal for plotting coup. So many journalists were killed. A colleague of mine, Bagad Kato, who worked with me in the news magazine, was killed. So many journalists were killed. Some of us spent days, months, years in detention because of what? For practicing journalism. So the point I'm making is that in a democracy, even though we don't have the kind of democracy that we are practicing today, some people will even argue that even the current government we have now is even more tyrannical than, you know, compared to the military regime. But the truth of the matter is that the worst civilian government, like the one we currently have, is better than the best military regime. So no Nigerian should talk about, or should even think about, you know, say, oh, we need to have military regime to change a bus system. We have a bus system, I agree, but this must be involved, ensure that we need to expand the civil political elite.
To getting it right. Our says return of COVID-19 as Cross River confirms outbreak. Remember when it was 19 for President, now late President Muhammadu Buhari, and that state insisted, when Betta Edu was the Commissioner for Health, she insisted that there was no case in her state. But 2026, they've confirmed a case, say a Chinese national working for Lafarge, who just came in, has been diagnosed of COVID-19.
Well, to me, it is just a wake-up call on the health system to go into it and see how we can cope a resurgence of that ailment. I'm happy they've discovered a 53-year-old Chinese has been discovered. Even if you go to some other space, they say, well, COVID is nothing. It was just meant it was a conspiracy by the international group to do this and do that. But the truth of the matter is that it exists. It's not in doubt. So I think the health system should ensure, and what needs to be done, the use of masks, of course, of face masks can be brought back. And as long as we keep everything in check and we ensure that we prevent the coming back of that infection, I think it is good for all of us.
But did we really learn lessons from the first pandemic in terms of the health sector? A lot of defibrillators were not even bought. We saw countries, ordering a whole lot of them. The medical center in Aso Rock received a whole lot of, big budgets for it. Now we've talked about earlier on few amounts of money released in the health ministry. So it looks like we didn't really learn any lessons from the first pandemic.
Well, I want to disagree a little. Nigerians, actually the head of the DG of the center that was managing the disease at that time was one of the best. I'm that sure even after that assignment, he got a job now as a Deputy Director General of the World Health Organizations. Very competent, very professionals. And Nigerians, I must commend them, at that time did a very good job in managing COVID-19. Compared to advanced countries like the US with advanced medical facilities and all that, they recorded deaths running to millions of people. I'm sure you are aware what happened in the US and including other countries. I think in Nigerian case, we're able to manage it. And I'm not saying we recorded a few casualties, but compared to other countries like US that recorded millions of people, I think in US, they lost almost about 5 million people during the COVID-19. Go and check the record. That's a country with huge medical facilities. But I think what we need to do at every point in time, it's not just COVID-19. We had Ebola in this country, we had COVID-19. So there's no guarantee that we'll not have another disease. But I think what we need to do, those facilities, those personnel that were used to manage the COVID-19, do we still have them in the country today? Nigeria, we have this attitude of fire brigade approach, where something happens, we now begin to look for solutions. But the global standard is that we must be ready at all time. God forbid, if something happened today, that kind of COVID-19 happened today in Nigeria, it will be very difficult for us to manage. Because we've just been told that in the last 4 years, close to about 5,000 Nigerian medical doctors have left this country. So, which means that every year, Nigerian medical institutions, universities, train doctors. We build capacities, and at the end of the day, all of them will leave these countries. You can't blame them, because if you have a medical doctor that spent almost about 6 years training as a medical doctor, spending, almost millions of naira, and at the end of the day, you employ him, you are giving him 250,000 naira at the end of the month. Come on. I mean, there's somebody that will take that.
That's the figure from GMC data. Nigeria's healthcare system under pressure. Yeah. As 4,691 doctors moved to the UK.
Exactly, close to about 5,000.
And we're just talking about the UK. We've not looked at
about other countries, Canada, South Africa, and so Nigerian medical doctors are everywhere. And more and more are leaving. So I think that is the problem we have. And that's why I say, God forbid, if we have that kind of challenge today, Nigeria will be in serious crisis. I want to advise that, yes, like I said, we must be ready at all times. Those facilities that we use in managing that crisis at that particular point in time, we need to get them ready so that in case of any eventuality, we'll respond to it swiftly.
All right, let's bring in our viewers at this point. We're streaming live at Africa Independent TV on YouTube. I'll start with Solem Foods. It says, Iyobosao, the man speaks the truth. That was why he was removed, not because of incompetence. Is Tinubu competent? Mike Omovudu says, those removed from office will also be rewarded massively. It's all about politics. They know what they are doing. This other user, Jonah Sedunsi, I hope that's it. It says, the USA asked President Bola Ahmed Tinubu to sack Matawale because of insecurity, but no, he chose to sack those who are not among the cabal that gave him that seat. And also in alignment, Bumi says, Congresswoman said a man was trying to induce her with money to launder Nigeria images in Congress. That's Kimberly Daniels from US. And yes, so Chooks, do you have some you want to?
Well, we have from Solman, says the APC regime is the darkest so far. It says he's not a Gen Z, as we mentioned, earlier on, and no one will arrest you in the military regime because you will be siding with them, just like you're siding. Well, I don't.
You might not understand what we're talking about.
You might not understand everything you've described, and I think there are a lot of even young people like us who have heard a lot of stories.
Young people like who? Who is your? Who is us?
Young people like you guys.
Like us. I'm sorry.
Who have heard a lot of stories of what was experienced. That's not taking away what Nigerians are facing, right now, but what they've experienced, during the military era. So maybe that's the problem. Probably we do not have history being taught, so we don't really learn what was happening in the past. And Mike says some few ministers in Tinubu cabinets are doing very well. Go to our international airports, you would think you are in abroad. Well, that's another one. But a lot of people seem to disagree with the ministers, but with what you said, does that not also fall back on the Senate or whoever's going to screen it, the National Assembly, screening of the ministers as well? Because we have a lot of people also agreeing with the fact that their ministers who are not doing well as well, that should be kicked out.
You see, I made that position clear when I was talking about that there are so many incompetent ministers in Tinubu's regime.
Up until date, even as a newsman that should know, you still use browser to confirm
the name of ministers. Exactly. So, which means that these guys are not doing. So the point I'm making is that many of these ministers were considered for appointment not because they fit the job that were given to them, but because for political consideration. And I think that was a major problem. Yes, there are a few of them who are also doing very well in this government. Some ministers who are doing very well. I can also point to about 2 or 3 or 4 persons that are doing very well in this government. There's no doubt about that. But like somebody said, when you are screening people, at the National Assembly, of course, you can only do that when you have a strong National Assembly. Not a National Assembly is being led by Akpabio, who believe that, the president is the emperor, is Mr. Know-it-all. So whatever he sends to the National Assembly will be approved without any hesitations. So, and that is the kind of National Assembly that we have. It's not a strong institutions, that can respond to some of these things as, okay, we have a competent person that was presented before us. On the basis of that, we are not going to approve the persons. The only person that they rejected at that point in time was Nasiru El-Rufai, who was Nasiru El-Rufai. And he was rejected not because the National Assembly did a very good job, but it was rejected because of security report. And so on the basis of that El-Rufai was rejected. But this National Assembly, I can't find them, or I can't see them rejecting any ministerial nominee presented to them by the current president, Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
But they did with RFI. Is that not?
That was just based on security issues, and because the president didn't really want to appoint him. And if the president wanted
he really didn't?
Yes.
But he was in Lagos for a conference and he says, I need you in my administration.
Yes,
he really begged him.
That was for
optics.
New newspaper headline or TV or something. If the president wanted RFI, National Assembly cannot decide otherwise. It's not just possible.
All right. So this statement here from a comment here from Vantage. I don't know if Rena falls into this category because she says she's not a young person. So this person says Nigerians, many people born between 1995 and 2008, who are from a sizable chunk of young Nigerians, have hardly ever experienced the work in Nigeria. So their expectations are low of the government, and it looks like there are lots of Nigerians who are really disappointed in what we're seeing. I mean, earlier on the show this morning, we saw a report from our colleague from Jos about a young man who was kidnapped. Yeah, his kidnappers are asking for over 30 million, which was slashed because he cannot afford, and he was being beaten in that video, and that's what a lot of young Nigerians see. That's what we are having of, you know, the image of Nigeria as it is.
Okay, let me come here. There is something very, very strange happening to all these Gen Z, people that were born from that 1995 to this present time or so. Most of them don't know nothing about Nigeria. That is the problem. I asked my kids, do you know the governors of this state? They say, no, Dad, we don't need to know. But then in our time, when we were schooling, they'll ask, oh, you have to memorize, you know, this is the governor of this, the president of this, how many? Children nowadays don't even want to know that. All they're interested is to go to social media, do a lot of things. When you ask them about Nigeria, ask them who is the prime minister, the prime minister of Nigeria. Most of them don't know.
But you ask them the prime minister of Nigeria, maybe they also want to give it back to you.
No. But we do not have, we can't also blame them in a way because we don't have the histories being taught. I mean, I think I only did history in one STEM.
Yes.
In my entire senior or junior secondary school.
Yes. Well, what I'm telling you is that we have a dysfunctional system in Nigeria, and it's affecting almost every sector. We talk about doctors running away. It's because how much are you paying them? I spoke to a friend of mine who's a professor. He said the money they are paying him, he can't even feed his family. Well, I mean, he cannot, there are dependents. Those are part of your family. You can't even feed them.
Yes.
So if there is an opportunity for you to get a greener pasture, see, everybody is fighting to go outside of this country now. Most of this young generation, because like they don't see hope in Nigeria. They don't feel hope. So they have the right. But honestly, the Nigerian system is dysfunctional. And we need to go back to the basis and ensure that Nigerians begin to have confidence, begin to have a buy-in, begin to believe in their country. And in a situation where you simply sit down and the system just folds his hand and says, well, let it go. Most of our leaders send their children abroad because they don't even believe in the Nigerian system.
You see, let me also give you this perspective. You're saying that Nigerians, the Gen-Z, are very disappointed with what's happening in Nigeria. I agree. Even me, as old I am, I'm also disappointed. But the question you should ask yourself, what are they doing? The student I'm talking about, what are they doing? I gave an instance last week about the guy in Jos that was kidnapped, that student, the University of Jos student that was kidnapped. And I said, if it were to be our time as student union leader, watching that video alone was enough for us as students then to make this country ungovernable using the technology at that time, because nobody would tolerate that. Students would go out on protest, and they will ensure that they will not stop the protest until that person is released by the government. But these days, you see students who are complaining about government, student union leaders who are complaining about government. They go giving award to governor, giving award to minister, giving award to senate president, giving award to the speaker. I mean, what kind of impression are you giving? You are complaining about the bad system. And the same people who are making this country very bad, you are giving them award all in the name of collecting money from them. During the military regime, students were very daring. I remember those days. I remember when Ogaga Ifowodu was the Secretary General of the Union, Student Union President in Uniben. The damn Aihomo, who was the second in command during Babangida regime, the Uniben wanted to give him an award in Uniben. The students said, no, you cannot give a second in command in military regime an award. They brought all the military personnel to Uniben. And as a matter of fact, when they entered the hall, the campus to give them an award, students brought a goat. They were also giving a goat an award. For them, that goat was a representative of the late Aihomo, may so rest in peace. As they were wearing Aihomo's gown in the Uniben's sport facility, the students were wearing a goat, a gown, riding the citations of Aihomo before that goat.
Okay.
Which shows strong resistance by students to a bad government at that time, even under the military regime. Today, under the civilian government, under a democracy, students are busy giving award to people who are oppressing them, or in the name of collecting money from them. So when you are complaining about government, the government is not doing, the question we should ask you as a student, as a Gen Z, what are you doing?
All right, I think that's the best place to leave it as well on the papers this morning. And thank you to our viewers as well on YouTube who sent in their comments. There being analyzed there by our reviewers this morning. Thank you so much, Yobosa, for coming this morning. Appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
And thank you, Simon, as well, for coming this morning. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I'm sure you have an agenda for your nicely ironed suits and color well face. All right, everyone, thank you so much for being with us so far. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll have our first conversation this morning.
Focus Nigeria. It's a huge task, but we take it on.
Ask him where is the law. National Assembly is not doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria. It is America that is doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria.
Monday to Friday on Focus Nigeria, we identify the nagging issues.
Some people put people in poverty deliberately, deliberate misplacement of priorities, and brought people on their knees to suffer.
We seek answers to the tough challenges.
And because of the former president, what I know is that he has not turned his membership card. He has not been attending your meeting.
Leave that to us to deal with.
There's no shying away from the issues.
The system is held accountable. The leaders are accountable for the funds, for the resources that they manage.
No sitting on the fence.
The same thing that made you live where you are may confront you.
Focus Nigeria, 10 a.m., Monday to Friday on AIT. The issues as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
It's a serious threat to democracy.
And our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go.
Every part of this country is important.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection.
I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe it, but for that reason, politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time.
Welcome back to the show from that brief break there. We're moving to our first interview on the show, and it's on Tinubu's cabinet reshuffle. We have Dr. Sam Amadi joining us virtually, an associate professor, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. Sorry there. Good morning, Dr. Sam Amadi. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
All right, Dr. Amadi, let's start the conversation. Thank you for joining us. What do you make of this cabinet reshuffle? And then, presidency says this is a minor reshuffle. Let's get your take on it.
Thank you. I think minor depends on how you look at it, quantity or quality. I think it's a major reshufflement. If you remove the Minister of Finance and the coordinator of the economy, then that's major because of its quality. So if you're looking at numbers, yes, minor, because two ministers, Minister of Housing and Minister of Finance, were removed. So minor if the index is quantity, major if it is quality. Again, I think it's a strategic move in the sense that it suggests it's not just routine, adjustment in personnel of the federal government. It probably signals a change in strategy in economic management. It signals maybe combination of lack of confidence in the status quo or in the existing management of the economy. Either way, it points to a recalibration in terms of maybe refocusing in the efficiency kind of delivery or recalibration of strategic focus of what economic management might mean. And the word out in the streets is that we might quarrel with the competence of Edu. In my view, when he was appointed, I thought maybe a respectable professional, but since he was last commissioner for finance in Lagos State, I think at some point with President Tinubu as governor, he has not really been in the eye of economic policy making, dealing with the complexities of managing the economy, apart from some perhaps, maybe chair of some boards here and there. So he sounded to me like somebody who might be rusty and who might also lack some of the gravitas to deal with economic politics. But he, as a dependable ally of the president, and every president is entitled to have the team he wants, because that's why he won the vote. So, and he also going to be held responsible for failure. So it was okay. But as it is now, it looks like he came short on that. But one of the things he had also very good for him was candor. He was the one who, managed to let out the secrets or the truth station. A lot of this government runs a lot of propaganda in terms of how things are working. But once in a while, the guy will come and tell us. He told us, look, our budget performance is below 30. You come and tell us, we are saying, okay, we're going to revenue is X, but it's not really that. You come and tell us that our projections are not going to be realistic. So every moment, his voice was very clear as a voice of candor and admission of shortcoming. Could that have been a reason for his ouster? Maybe others had led us to some difficulty working with his team, some kind of incoherence or some kind of, inability to manage. And then there were, at a point, issues around his health, where there was rumor of even his demise, which was false and malicious. But ultimately, you can see that his tenure was one that he has been building up to his ouster, and that's why I say strategic. Maybe Mr. President played it well, put in the guy he wants, shepherd him in, and clear the way for the guy, and then launch him. The next question would be, does this guy have what it takes to really direct the economy? And what is the strategic objective the president want to achieve? Is it streamline taxes, or to align the economy in a way that there's economic growth? And if that's the case, then we begin to benchmark his capability and say, maybe this guy is not that qualified to talk about bigger economic issues and to manage it in a better way than Mr. Edu did.
Okay, now the government has said the ministerial shake-up is to, strengthening the economic performance, that's boosting it, and also governance as well. So does what you've said now align with what the government has said about that?
Well, government has to put out a statement. That's why it's government. And they have to explain, give a good spin to its position. Yes, it might be to enhance the dynamics of the economy. Question then is, what are they looking at? So if you're looking at more taxation, maybe you're looking at fiscal management, which Mr. Ayodele, who's going to replace him, is perhaps a guru in tax. That's all his profile. He has his HND from Babatech and then worked in a top tax, as a top tax guru, and that's all. Maybe we're going to get that result because he has what it takes to talk about tax. We saw him as chair of the Presidential Committee that he's fluent in tax, but not that fluent to understand the political economy, which is what really shapes political outcomes. So, yes, that might be the point. So the fundamental question is, what is the government looking at when it talks about, rejigging for coherence? Is it looking at the economy that's underserving people in fundamental ways? First, we've seen from the data, increased poverty. We're talking about 63% of Nigeria are massively poor. More than half far more than half of Nigerians are now classified as very poor, meaning maybe living below $2 a day from the World Bank statistics. And even if you look at the Nigerian Bureau of Statistics, in spite of all the politics, they are very clear. The poverty, both in relative terms and in general terms, poverty is increasing. Are you going to look at unemployment? It's also increasing. You look at inequality, the three metrics you're going to look at. And look at quality of life. Nigerians depreciating in the global context. And again, cost of living is high. So all the various indicators that concern ordinary people are worse up. So is Ayodele coming to shake up those, to translate whatever revenue government has increased every generation. Government is also selling the idea that some of their macroeconomic reforms in terms of removing the dual exchange platform, and now we have a unified single floated currency. Government is also pointing to some decline in inflation, relatively small. They also pointed to the fact that subsidies are off and state subnationals are receiving more money. Is they're going to make sure that now we're going to see these quote-unquote gains translate to real gains for the Nigerian people, improve the middle small economic sector, which is shrinking. We've seen significant deindustrialization. We're not seeing expansion in the economy. We're not seeing increase in productive capacity. If you look at the infrastructure innovation index, we're doing very badly, far below Ghana and some other Kenya and some other countries in the African continent. We're not talking about the comparison with the middle-income countries. We're talking about comparison with upper poor countries like Nigeria. We're doing very badly in innovation, in infrastructure, all the basic indicators. So the problem is when governments speak about reordering for better performance, the first question is, what are they performing towards? Are you performing towards creating more revenue like we have through taxing the people, through removing subsidy, which is inverse indirect taxation, through, now we have oil windfall, the prices are going up globally, you improve your oil production, you earn more revenue, states get more revenue, but they use it to drive politics. Again, the World Bank tells us whether government is refuting it, and they saw that I really came out smoking. And that's the kind of job the president would like him to do. But it doesn't convince. When you say, no, they are wrong. They're not wrong. We have seen that the money we're making, where the ministries and departments that are responsible for driving economic development and changes and making investment in public services don't have them. They're saying 20%. Somebody who has like maybe 30 billion earmarked based on projected revenue says they only receive 36 million. So where is the money going? And the World Bank thinks it's going through some kind of fraudulent outlets. And the ministry says no. So are we going to see these opaque nature removed through this new arrangement? Are we going to see a deepening of an economics that's, so for want of a word, we can call Bukadia economics, where the figures are there, you talk about revenue increase, you're taking more from the people, but you're returning less to them and more to political cooperatives and to, those who are in power, and the results are not shown. So for me, I watch and see, but I think in the normal general sense of things, Mr. Ayodele, with all his professionalism and, growth in professional circle as a tax expert, hasn't got the normal capabilities or gravitas or profile of a manager of the economy. I mean, if you understand the economy as political economy, the economy that matters for a developing country is the ability to read the intersections of policies and how they're going to impact, not the idea of being a one-track professional who understands tax. Tax is minimal to an economy. You see, the notion that economic development is to raise revenue is wrong. It's actually to boost productivity. It is to increase capacity to produce at even lower level communities and to improve both human capital as a strategy for increased productivity, as well as mobilize and deploy those capital to grow the economy in the short to medium term. So I think there's probably a confusion of development agenda and a use of improbable strategies, and I'm not very hopeful of the outcome.
All right, Dr. Amadi, I hear you, and I hear you say things about getting the real maths of beyond the optics. But political watchers of some of these conversations in Nigeria have also said that maybe Wale Edun was already walking a tightrope when the presidency seemed not to be happy with him in some conversations in the not so distant past, for example, saying that one example that will be on our faces, the presidency saying that they have met the revenue target for the year as at September, and then the then minister now says, we've not done that. Do you allude to that perspective, that that could have been the reason for his removal or resignation or what does it call it again? Sack or whatever. Yeah, Dr. Amadi.
I think I met with when I was starting my intro, and I said, you might not agree with his competence level, especially maybe he has not updated after being commissioner, but he can't fault his candor. He seems to be a guy who says the truth. And so that's the point. Many people are saying there's a reason why he's not there. I think by nature of Tinubu's government and the fact that it can't commandeer results, but you can propagandize it, you can spin it. I think Ayodele is the right guy for this job because, look, we saw him at the top of the presidential committee. He went everywhere like a hurricane, steadfast and focused on sometimes lying about the tax situation, taking no prisoners. It's like an evangelist. And some people say probably he's pastor of one of the Pentecostal churches, I don't know. But he has an evangelical zeal and intensity. He preaches this gospel of tax, and welfare. And Tinubu is a tax guy too, you know, his work life. I think he fits what he will like. And that's what was missing in Edu. A good, I guess I don't know him personally as forthright guy, low energy maybe because of age and maybe underlying illness, and some people are new to. It wasn't that in your face. He spoke calmly. He wasn't energetic. He couldn't draw the wool over the people's eye. And so I think it was a misfit of a sort. And that's why people thought every time it was rumored that he was going to resign or he has been removed and things like that. So I think you're right. The political, barometer is that he was removed because why didn't fit into what they want. And they have been perhaps out of loyalty kept that long. But really, if you look at the team we have now, less of real technocrats, less of people who have the, whose strength is the capability, but more of people who have the swagger, who have the fighting spirit, and who will perhaps turn the whole country speaking the same thing. Just recently, there was an admission by Ayodele that, there are some problem with the tax. And then the next day, when it was reported, he went into war. Said, no, I never said that. And the tapes were there. So that's the kind of person I think that the government might find much more attractive at this point. So this is politics, it seems to me.
All right, Dr. Sam, can you just adjust your camera as well a little bit so we could also see you clearly, kind of tilted.
Is it better now?
He tilted away. Okay. Also now, how would you assess Ahmed Dangiwa's tenure as housing minister? Did he leave any legacies behind, or was it deserving of the sack as well?
It would be unfair to him to assess because I didn't even know, many people don't know he exists actually, I would say. It wasn't nothing really to fall back to. He probably is a good guy, doing some work in the ministry. Two things. One, outcome. We didn't see expansion in housing. The housing crisis in Nigeria, as reported, is still very there. Nigeria has a huge housing deficit in terms of houses for civil servants, houses provided by private sector through various initiatives. So if it was effective, then it was not communicating it. Many Nigerians don't even remember that there was a minister called Dangiwa, as the case might be. So I think lackluster would be the right way to do. Is it because his ministry was not communicating what they're doing effectively, or is it because you can see the federal mortgage institutions are more dynamic or more in your face? So again, the way government runs some of these ministries, it goes to question, do we really need to have a ministry of housing? It's not everything to have a ministry. If you have had a federal mortgage agency that's powerful, strong, if you had, primary and secondary mortgage institutions, maybe that's enough. So question will be asked in the future, do we really have a housing ministry? During the earlier time of Buhari, we had power and works and housing combined under one man who then was a Fashola, and later power was hyped out of it, housing and works and housing. which may look more coherent. So the housing minister has not performed, but we have no evidence, no footprint to say he was competent. If he was, maybe administratively, in terms of outcome, we didn't see that. And again, the question then is, does this government has a commitment to housing as a social policy? If you look at the manifesto of APC before the Hope agenda before the election, the housing, it was the model, the print model to run was what we call in economics, the social market model, where the focus is also around providing social support to trigger, productivity. So housing, education, health were the focal points of those, that policy. But when he took over, he fell into free market model with some functionality, which basically focus on the fundamentals. Deal with the foreign exchange, deal with inflation, deal with subsidy, remove subsidy, improve tax GDP, and all that. So social sector suffered. And so that might be that the housing sector is no longer central to the economic policy of this government. And therefore, that may explain some of the lackluster, low visibility of that minister. But overall, I think we don't even have the facts to assess his capacity. I mean, we can assess power that he failed because we saw activities, we saw movement, we saw visibility, we didn't see result. But for housing, we didn't see anything. We didn't see visibility, we didn't see footprint, and we didn't see outcome.
All right, Dr. Amadi, we see that Mataka Darama would be replacing Danginwa if approved by the Senate or cleared by the Senate. Well, that Darama has also been given plaudit for his time while he held sway at the Petroleum Technology Development Fund. What would you say that he needs to do differently from his predecessor when and if he makes this to the housing ministry?
Well, I think he will make it like somebody said it at the show this morning. There's no possibility that this Senate will say no to anything, especially when there's nothing to say no to. I mean, the president should have his team, the president's side. So I want to say that these guys who are nominees are almost like they've made it, they will make it. So, okay, what should you do differently? Well, again, if he was in PTFP, he probably has enough understanding about policy and program and how to translate them to reality. So he is probably somebody who has already equipped with significant technical capability. But again, two things I will recommend. First is he has to have a conversation with the president, if that's possible, to understand how significant housing is to the president's overall economic and social agenda. And maybe have a conversation with the Minister of Economy, now Ayodele, to see the connection between housing and the vision of economic growth or economic stability that they have. Because if you don't have that conversation, you will know how central. And then he will now go back and revision how the ministry can coordinate the various interventions in the institutions to deliver on those in a concrete sense. So the ministry is a policy and a manager and a coordinator rather than an intervener in the industry today.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Sam Amadi. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Dr. Sam Amadi is an associate professor, Abuja School of Social and Political Thought. We appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, from there, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, it will be Kakaki Social. Stay with us.
The issues as they break, the multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
There is a serious threat to democracy.
And our government seem to be incapable of protecting
the scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go.
Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection. I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe it was for that reason in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program inside the parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m.
Good morning and welcome to Kakaki Social this Wednesday morning, bringing you the latest trends, viral moments, and conversations buzzing across social media. I am Chidera Isdoi. Now, our President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has approved a minor cabinet reshuffle, resulting in changes within the Federal Executive Council. Now, this was disclosed in a press release issued by the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. According to this statement, the Minister of Finance, Wale Edu, and the Minister of Housing and Urban Development, Ahmed Musa Dangiwa, have exited the Federal Executive Council. In a swift move, the presidency has elevated Zach Adedeji Oyedele to the position of the Minister of Finance. Meanwhile, Damara has been named as a ministerial nominee pending confirmation by the National Assembly. Let's see what netizens, this is one of the biggest news everywhere in Nigeria, and netizens have been reacting. Let's see what social media is saying. Bayo Chibuzo is saying, congrats to our tax minister. All these changes does not really mean anything until the traders on the streets begin to feel the benefits. Until then, it makes no difference. And we have another user, Technical Glitch, who says, running Nigeria like a private company, no accountability. You just woke up one morning, sacked a 7th minister because he disagrees with you without explaining to Nigerians the reason why he was sacked. And we have Francis, who says, one would have thought that the Minister of Defense states, that's Mr. Bello Matawali, will be among ministers to be replaced along with the Minister of Power. They've not followed at all, though. Let's see another user who is saying, thank you, Wale Odun, for your service to the nation. You have earned your well-deserved rest. Take a bow, sir. And we have Den, who says, this move has been long overdue, but it's better late than never. The presidency's approval rating has just increased a bit with this move. Kudos to him, as I personally believe that Taiwo Oyedele is more sound. We only criticize constructively here. Okay, now let us continue. A chieftain of the ruling party, Senator Orji Zakalo, has dismissed concerns about political alliances ahead of future elections, insisting that President Bola Ahmed Tinubu remains firmly in control. Now, speaking during a recent engagement, the former Abia State governor stated that the president is not running for office with any coalition, emphasizing that the opposition lacks the strength to oppose a serious challenge. Let's see his video.
Reforms is what takes time to survive. Singapore, everybody did reform. Indonesia, China. Nigeria is like 30 years of China today. So we are working. I mean, Rome was not built in a day. These reforms will come to this stream. And I have told you people before, President Tinubu is not running president with anybody. The opposition is very weak. Very, very, very weak. And all of them in the opposition are our friends. They are my friends. They are President Tinubu's friends. Let's leave politics alone. We are all friends. Let's tell ourselves the truth. Let them present what they will do better than President Tinubu to Nigerian people. I've not seen what they will do better. The economy was in tatters when President Tinubu came in 2023. And he's managing the economy to bring back all the lost grounds to make it a standing ground.
Okay, let's see what netizens are saying concerning this. Idris is saying these people are really scared of the coalition, and the day they will release Erifai, they will understand that. Election is not done on social media. People are tired and ready for change. And another user saying, let them present what they will do better. Peter Obi will present PowerPoint slides. Atiku will present his 2003, 2007, 2011, 2015, 2019, and 2023 rejection letters. Pamso will present his red hat. Meanwhile, Tinubu is sitting on the throne unbothered. Spoke pure facts, and it is paining people. And we have, I am God's signature. Opposition is weak. APC is the most. It's fear that in daily lives. Let's see another user. Okay, that is that. Now, a viral video circulating on social media has sparked outrage after capturing a soldier or a group of soldiers allegedly harassing young women over their choice of clothing. Now, in the footage, the soldiers are seen confronting the ladies for wearing outfits described as partial camouflage, a pattern commonly associated with military uniforms. Let's see this video. Oh, let's see what netizens are saying. Now, Son of Mercy says, I see people say, why would soldiers do this or that abroad? As in, abroad, it is different because it is not against the law. But in Nigeria, it is against the law. And we have another user, Uche, who says, so we are really about to watch people blame her for wearing camouflage instead of holding the officers accountable for harassing her. That says a lot. These are uniformed men entrusted with protecting citizens, yet they are the ones abusing that power as a form of punishment. That is not just wrong, it is disgraceful. We should be condemning this misconduct, not politicizing her choices. Let us continue. And Divine is saying a very simple instruction that people can heed to. Don't wear camouflage. And suddenly it becomes so fashionable. Well, life don't pass to the do strong head for these things where you can avoid. Okay, let us continue. A lot of reactions. Now, Celebrity Israel is saying this is absolutely injustice to the lady. If she's guilty, correct her, not punish her down like a criminal and slap her. I frown at this kind of injustice. We appreciate the military, but this is abuse of power. We have too many issues in this country, which is a very honest opinion. We have a lot going on to be doing all of this. And Emmy is saying, instead of them to face bandits, now common civilians, them they face. Now let us continue. The Lagos State Commissioner of Environment has urged citizens of police has urged the directive warning officers against unlawful search of citizens' mobile phones, reinforcing the importance of respecting fundamental human rights. Now, according to the commissioner, operatives of the Nigerian police force are not permitted to search any individual's phone without proper legal backing. He further emphasized that members of the public have the right to record the police officers while on duty, noting that such actions are lawful as long as they do not obstruct official responsibilities. Let's see this video.
We are not, we don't entertain any fears of anybody recording us. You can record us, we can record you as well. It's on both sides.
So we are not entertaining anything. Anybody can record any police officer at his duty post. In as much as the police officer is doing the right thing, he has nothing to fear about recording. So anybody can record us while we are carrying out our lawful duty. Our men have been warned not to search any phone from any individual. We are there to search the vehicles. We are there to know who is inside the vehicle and to be assured that the people have boarded the right vehicle and not the vehicles of these hoodlums.
Well, this is kind of consolation to citizens, but let's see what the social media is saying. Ogunwale is saying, we commend him for saying this, but actions speak louder than voice. There are a lot of laws that are on paper, but not followed. The last time I checked, bail is always free, but I doubt if anyone has ever been bailed freely. We have Fisayo, who is saying, the truth is that those police officers are too stubborn. If you show them this video, they will still say the IG cannot do anything to me. Coming from experience. Now, the informat moralist is saying the real test will not be the statement itself, but whether it changes the behavior on the streets. Many good officers already understand this. The challenge has always been the minority who see power as an opportunity rather than a responsibility. And one more user in this light is saying, make him remove a uniform from his body and then come work for a body. Maybe police go here. Okay. Now, finally, former President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan has responded to recent remarks by the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, stating that he gave his best while serving as Nigeria's leader. Jonathan, who governed the country from 2010 to 2015, made this comment amid ongoing political discourse surrounding past administrations and their performances. He also maintained that his tenure was guided by a commitment to national unity, democratic principles, and economic stability, stressing that he worked diligently within the limits and challenges of the time. Let's see what netizens are saying concerning what our former president said. Now, Doctor is saying it all started under your watch, from Evans kidnappings, massive fraudulent activities, to corruptions, to money laundering. You weren't tough enough. You ruled us, giving us an illusional dream we cannot achieve. And we have another user, Larry says, we will always remind them what informed the decision to oppose the removal of subsidy in 2014 by Goodluck Ebele Jonathan that they claim today as their Oga's signature. In the same line, another user is saying, in the same line, or countering what Larry is saying, another user says, we will always remind them what informed the decision to oppose the removal of subsidy in 2014 by Goodluck Ebele Jonathan that they claim today as their Oga signature. Another reaction in this same line says, the very best president, in my opinion, but Nigerians never seem to recognize what they have until it's gone. Sometimes it's only in hindsight that people begin to appreciate leadership, and by then, the opportunity has already passed. One more user, Mr. Gerald, is saying, indeed, he did his best, and they call him names because he actually cared for people. Now we are reaping what we sowed. Wow. Now that is where we wrap up Kakaki Social this Wednesday morning. Do not forget to stay connected, stay informed, and see you next time. You can reach us via the social media handles displayed on the screen. I am Chidera Izudoye. Have a great day ahead.
Focus Nigeria. It's a huge task, but we take it on.
I think that is the law. National Assembly is not doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria. It is America that is doing hearing on insecurity in Nigeria.
Monday to Friday on Focus Nigeria, we identify the nagging issues.
So people put people in poverty deliberately, deliberate misplacement of priorities, and brought people on their knees to suffer.
We seek answers to the tough challenges.
And because of
for the former president, yes, what I know is that he has not turned his membership card. He has not been attending your meeting.
Leave that to us to deal.
There's no shying away from the issues.
The system is held accountable. The leaders are accountable for the funds, for the resources that they manage.
No sitting on the fence.
The same thing that made you live where you are may confront you.
Focus Nigeria, 10 a.m., Monday to Friday on AIT. The
as they break. The multitude, the political figures, the state and non-state actors.
There is a serious threat to democracy.
And our government seem to be incapable of protecting.
The scheming.
This is not a period we should say bow and go.
Every part of this country is equal.
The intrigues.
There can be no one person that is bigger than the party.
Deft moves and the momentous declaration.
We didn't get any protection.
I'm not particularly against anybody.
We track and capture them all.
I don't believe in godfatherism in politics.
Follow in-depth analysis and no-holds-barred interviews.
Armed forces of the country is well capable. They need the political will.
Are they just waking up from sleep? Is there complacency?
Feel the pulse of happenings in the political arena on AIT Democracy Today. Widely acclaimed authority on politics. Monday to Friday, 7 p.m. Nigerian time. In the hallowed chambers where laws are forged and a nation's destiny is decided.
This is your parliamentary program, Inside the Parliament on AIT.
Voices rise, opinions clash, debates ignite.
We cannot be apologetic in the discharge of our constitutional duties as lawmakers of the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
The burden of proving that the elections have been conducted peacefully and in accordance with law must shift to INEC.
From the Senate to the House of Representatives, this is where policies are tested, laws are crafted, and authority is held to account.
We spoke to some lawmakers on their opinions of the document presented by the president.
Every motion, every argument carries the hopes of millions.
We need more hospitals, more health clinics in communities so that they can effectively take care of the primary health need of our people.
The questions are tough. The exchanges are intense.
Mr. President, you can have your way, but I will have my say. You can use the gavel, and I will use my voice.
And those who want the proviso are 55 in number. And so the proviso says.
But who truly stands for the people? Who is driving the change that defines our tomorrow?
Let us tell ourselves the truth. Why are we here talking about LGBT, GTBT, whatever?
Get the answers on Where Nigeria Decides on Inside the Parliament on AIT every Tuesday, 4:30 p.m.
My baba, they always say, for market, every day get your own wahala. Sometimes people go on scan you. But Baba say, no be by gra. You must cool down, dey sharp. Because with OPay payment, your money go enter sharp, no story. But inside market, anything fit happen. One day, we no see phone again. My Baba remember OPay USSD lock, that's star 955 star 131 hash. Baba press am, lock account. From market woman to driver, from small boy to big man. Now OPay, they protect people like us. My Baba fit sell, press phone, collect POS, and still they teach me price. And when they don't tire am, go just tap OPay night guard. We no fear for this our hustle life. Now OPay be the people payment shield.
All right, welcome back from Kakaki Social to our second conversation this morning. It's the fourth Wednesday of the month on Kakaki, and that means that normalcy resumes. And we'll be talking about Kakaki cancer awareness, and that will be in collaboration with the Commot Cancer Foundation. And our focus this week will be on Bowel Cancer, and Commot Cancer Foundation CEO, Dr. Denise Ejo, would lead the way with our guests. Good morning, Dr. Denise.
Good morning. Gosh, you look very good. You look very fine this morning. Oh, my gosh.
That's not a compliment, doctor. You mean other mornings were not fine?
It's a compliment because you didn't wait for me to finish. I wanted to say to you, where is Bobo Right? Hey. Oh, Bobo Right. Hello, guys. How are you guys doing this morning? Let's go. Good morning, viewers. Welcome to another edition of our program, Kakaki Cancer Awareness, or rather, I now call it Commot Cancer Awareness, with Denise Ejo, the CEO of Commot Cancer. I want to thank you all for joining us this morning as we start this program in partnership with AIT. So today we're talking about what happens after the life-changing words, "You have cancer," with a focus on bowel cancer, which my very nice guest told me is the same as colon cancer. You see, when I tell people I'm not a medical doctor, you understand where I'm coming from. So let's keep going. So what's bowel cancer? Bowel cancer remains one of the least talked about cancers in our environment, yet many are silently battling with it, often presenting late when treatments become difficult. Joining me this morning anyway is my very good brother, Dr. B. Olusegun Olutunde, a consultant oncologist, and he's here to help us understand what patients truly face and what we must begin to do differently. So, Doc, good morning. Nice to see you. Nice to see your face after such a long time. We should go back to...
Hello, Dr. Davis. Good morning. Always a delight to sit with you and chat about these important topics that have far-reaching effects. And thank you, Kakaki, for always being there to spread the good word.
Thank you. So, viewers, together we fight, together we win. Let's start this thing. Let's start from that moment no one forgets. And that is a very big statement, that point where no one forgets, even me, 10 years on. Okay? After a patient hears the word, "You have cancer," particularly bowel cancer, stomach cancer, what are the most critical first steps they should take within the Nigerian health system? So, personally, bearing in mind what we have to be practical.
I think that the first thing, as absurd as it will sound, is to say don't panic, because I've come to realize in all my years of practice that panic and the attendant fear that comes with it makes people make a host of wrong decisions. The panic, the fear, the terror that is associated with that diagnosis, while real, I'm acknowledging it. I mean, Dennis, you would know because you have heard this yourself. The initial panic and fear are things that have to just be tamed immediately so that you can actually tackle this from a place of quiet strength, despite the turbulence that is, going on. I think it's so important to mention this because, again, just to reiterate, people make a lot of bad decisions when they panic. And some of these bad decisions come from well-intentioned people who actually think that they are helping, but in the long run, make things go from bad to worse. But having said that, a diagnosis of cancer, as scary as it is a time to strap on your boots and start to move forward, because the earlier you tackle this problem, the better. And so the next best step would be to say, have I been correctly diagnosed? Am I seeing the right person to give me all of the information I have about this cancer? Has all the tests that need to be done, have they been done, so that I can be certain that, okay, this is the type of cancer I have, this is the extent to which the cancer has gone, and then these are the treatment options. So I think one of the first few things is to just ensure that you are in the right place and in the right hand being treated. This becomes a challenge because, unfortunately, the health sector is not populated with as many specialists as one would want. And that means that a lot of times general practitioners who are excellent doctors in their own rights in the general practice may be the first person to diagnose this, and therefore patients need to have proper referral pathways to the right doctors who can see them. And then they have to do all of the necessary investigations. I think one of the key ones would be a colonoscopy, where a camera is put on a flexible tube and introduced gently through the backside, and then they look inside to see where, if they can spot the tumor. They need to take a sample of it, send it for biopsy. And as soon as everything is properly done, patients need to start their treatment as quickly as possible. These are the steps that someone needs to take to ensure, once they've heard you, I think you have cancer, or we believe you have cancer, these are, I think, the general steps. So ensure, calm down, do all the investigations, preferably in the hands of a specialist. Once this has been diagnosed, the extent has been delineated, start your treatment as quickly as possible. Dennis.
Yeah, thank you. You know, every time I have to sit on this part and I have to recall my experience, I think, okay, how did I navigate that? Yeah, that's how I navigated it. I stopped. I cried. Like I say, I always tell people, we die, then you have to wake up very quickly.
Absolutely.
Very quickly, and then start. Okay. So basically, stay on track. Okay, let's go. Okay, let me just ask you a very quick off the top. Can you give me the first top 3 signs that you would know that you're in that direction of bowel cancer?
Great. This is an excellent question, and I was hoping that it would come up, because I tried to answer your questions directly. Here's the thing. A lot of times, cancer is very, very quiet for years and years when it's in the body without you even knowing. So no symptom is not a reason to say you don't have cancer. And this is where we push the agenda of screening for common cancers. You did say that it's common. It is common, but people don't talk about it. And it has a very simple screening procedure where they just test for blood in the stool. Now, the presence of blood in the stool does not immediately say this is bowel cancer, but it allows you, as do all screening procedures, allows you to pursue to be sure if it is or if it is not. So the lack of symptoms does not mean don't take steps. I think people should always do screenings, and they should talk to their doctors to know about screening. For instance, if you're over 50 years, you should actually do a blood and stool test maybe every 2 years, except if there's a family history of that cancer, and then you have to request for it maybe a bit more frequently. But here are the common symptoms that people would have as the cancer begins to progress and starts to show signs. There's this feeling of bloatedness, there can be abdominal discomfort. Sometimes, commonly, people see blood in their stool. Unfortunately, if you've had what people term to be hemorrhoids or pile, and you've been seeing blood in your stool previously because of this, you would now be confused, thinking that that is what's still going on. But this time around, it's something more sinister, like bowel cancer. The other thing is that the blood does not always have to be red, especially if it's coming from higher up in the intestine. The blood may have been changed, so the stools look darker brown or they look black when they come out because the blood in them has been altered. So if you see these abnormalities, you need to see someone. Unintentional weight loss, and also changing bowel habits, constipation irregularly, and then having diarrhea, or just having small stools, like they are hard, they come out in pebbles, or you are having very thin, instead of a robust adult size poo, you are noticing that you are having like a pencil-shaped poo. These are things that should really worry someone and make them go to see their doctor.
Wow, I really like the way you explained this one. Very clear, very precise, thank you. I think we got it. So from your clinical experience, what are the most common challenges patients with bowel cancer in Nigeria face, especially when it comes to the timely diagnosis and treatment?
Dennis, this is the Nigerian situation. The challenges there are too many. As a clinician, you're just always stumped by how many challenges a patient, as an oncologist, by the time a patient is sitting in front of me and they're telling me their story, it just always makes you feel so bad because, let's talk about money. Money seems to be the biggest thing. The funding for cancer is just not enough. People are still paying out of pocket, and in places where insurance covers, it's not blanket coverage. And so many people, the number of people who are living below the poverty line, they far exceed people above it. And these are the people who come down with a lot of these diseases. So they finding the help that they need, the financial help that they need to even go and see a doctor first, that I have a problem, to run the tests that are required of them, and then even when diagnosis has been made, to take up treatment. Then people pay as much as, millions of naira for a session of chemotherapy when we're dealing with bowel cancer. Millions per session. And sometimes you need 6, sometimes you need 8, sometimes you're on it indefinitely per session of chemo. So it's a lot for people to deal with. I think one other thing is culturally, we don't like discussing bowel habits. We're kind of like disgusted, like, oh, I noticed that there's blood in my stool. There's just this reluctance to talk about it. And I'm not even saying talk about it with people. I'm saying talk about it with your doctor. So sometimes someone will come to the hospital and be saying, I have pile, I have pile, I have pile, because it's easier to lump every problem that they have into that. And it takes a doctor teasing out all of this information, and this makes them always present late. So late presentation is just a big problem. So we've talked money, we've talked late presentation, we've talked about difficulty talking about these things, access to the care itself. Even sometimes when you have money, you can be a farmer in the village and have money, but getting access to care can be a challenge. Finding the place where we don't have enough diagnostic centers, we don't have enough hospitals, we don't have enough specialists, who are involved actively in the management of cancer and also in specific specialized areas. And these are problems that they come across every day. False information is something people are always dealing with. Oh, don't eat sugar, don't touch it, because if they do surgery on it, the cancer will spread. Oh, chemotherapy kills people. Challenges that just subdue the spirit and make patients run away from the hospital and not want to take it. These are things I deal with on a daily basis. And I think that the best thing is to trust the system as quickly as possible. Find you a good doctor. Find yourself someone you can connect with, and then understand that in everything that you are being told, this person's glory comes from you getting better, and they're not going to want to harm you. And there might be conflicting information, but you have to learn to put your trust in the medical doctor, specialist who is taking care of you, so you can move forward very quickly.
Thank you. Nice one, Claire. So
thank you, Dennis.
We have to agree now that bowel cancer is still not widely talked about. We agree with that. But stigmatization and cultural silence must play a very big role in everything you've just said, because thinking about it, like you said, the people in the rural areas, how do they, if they're told? It's very sad, because I do have, I've seen at least 3 people this year who have died of cancer, who are not illiterate, but who would not talk about it because of stigmatization. So, Dr. B, how do stigmatization and cultural side affect our early detection plans, outcomes?
So, the worst kind of stigmatization is even the self-stigmatization, where you feel shame because you've been diagnosed by a disease and you're thinking that you don't want anybody to know. I used to have someone work with me, and she had breast cancer. And we would see patients together and she would not talk about it. Like, I couldn't understand by the time she was now revealing it, we were in very late stages, stage 4, God rest her soul. But it always bothers me how you can feel guilty for being diagnosed with a sickness, and that guilt stops you from communicating, from seeking help. You don't deserve cancer. It's not something you brought on yourself. It's something we should gather around you and help you, because it is unfair that you are going through what you are going through. That's a big part for me. Stop self-stigmatizing yourself. Open up. Dennis, when I say you are the poster child, and I know you always smile, I say, no, I'm just in awe of you and how hard you are fighting, despite how serious the condition that you are facing is. We spoke yesterday at length, and every time I leave a conversation with you, I'm wishing a part of your spirit could just fall on every cancer patient so that they can fight with everything that they have. They can ignore what needs to be ignored and just keep going and understanding that they can have actually a full, robust life outside of cancer. But in the general context, we need a mind shift. The churches, the religious leaders, generally speaking, that is community leaders, royal fathers, we need to talk about cancer like we talk about the economy. You know, we need to make it such commonplace, because if the statistics for breast cancer is 1 in 8 women, that's a high percentage of women are going to come down with breast cancer. That's a lot, and we need to talk about it. Ignoring it is not going to make it go away. The figures will not change just because we don't talk about them. The figures will only change when we start to talk about them freely, but from a place of knowledge and not propagating stereotypes or misinformations. So I think that's the only way forward. You know, I don't want to take too much time. I can go on and on about issues like this that mean a lot to me.
Yeah, we're about to close anyway. No, so I'm about to finish this, and I've got one last question for you. So cancer doesn't just affect patients. We have to remember there are families in it. I know how my children have managed and navigate and keep navigating and keep just being grateful for each day I'm alive. So for families and caregivers, what would you say would be practical? Just give me 2 practical or 3 practical roles they can play after the diagnosis to at least help the patients. I could give you many because of my experience, but no, that's based on experience. That's not, so you give us just 3 main ones as we round up.
So when someone is newly diagnosed with cancer, the bottom drops out of their world, understanding support. And that support is not just, I'm here for you, it's I'm walking this journey with you. So things like sitting with them in silence sometimes when they don't need to hear anything, just being available, going with them for their follow-up and listening and taking notes and helping them make sense of all of these many complicated issues, treatments, pathways, and all of that. I think it is one of the biggest things that you can do. That strong support. Now, I mean, the bottom just dropped out of your own world too, but this person comes first, and you just need to be there and supportive as much as you can. Providing of funds is more important. In our culture, people are quick to pay lip service, but not because they think, oh, he's going to die anyways, there's no point spending money.
Thank you.
You know, it's something we come across out a lot. So helping financially is a big part. You see a patient and then somebody calls, doctor, you should say this man will survive this sickness. You know, they come back to come and ask you because they're already calculating that, oh, this 500K we're going to spend, that's a total of 3 million. Should we even be spending it now on this patient, or should we be thinking about burial? I think that's just unfair, because, you know, you need to support as much as possible with financial support to be there. I know we're running out of time, but I hope these 2 things will reach the right people and help them to do the needful to support cancer patients generally. Oh, yeah.
Thank you. You actually just said what went through my head, and it's something that I'm still going back to. I'm still waiting to see what the government's going to do about Blessing CEO. Because you just said it. You just said we were seen as dead. And so everybody's trying to look at the nearest money, and there's somebody thinking it's a joke, and then cracking joke and raising money on our expense. Anyway, we're still waiting on the Nigerian government. We're waiting on the people, relevant stakeholders, to please get Blessing CEO arrested, and we are waiting. Cancer patients are waiting to see the outcome for that. No matter how it goes, we'll still talk about it until we see what happens, because she cannot be an influencer and influence badly to the extent at the expense of cancer patients' life. Anyway, let me round up, because you just said was what I heard, which was the last thing you said, and that was we're seen as dead. We're not dead. I'm 10 years on.
Not at all. Not at all.
With the
terminal disease,
so what? Let's keep going. Bowel cancer is not a death sentence, please. The diagnosis is. The silence around it is costing lives. But conversations like this can change that, please. Doc, in a few words, that would you like Nigerians to remind you what would be your own few words? Give me 2 few words.
So everyone, cancer is not a death sentence, and checking for it by screening is not going to invite it. Rather, it will find it early when you can get rid of it and have more confidence that you can beat it. So please adopt screening procedures and start treatment as soon as possible. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. So bowel cancer is treatable, especially when detected early. We agree. Do not ignore symptoms like blood in the stool or persistent changes in your bowel habits. You getting it? Seek proper medical care early. Avoid delay and self-medication. Screening is important, especially for those at risk. And support systems, no matter what. Just look for help. You're not alone. Congo Cancer Foundation is always there for you. So, if you've noticed anything, any unusual changes, don't ignore them. Speak to a doctor. Get checked. Early detection does save lives. To you, my doc, I want to say thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your time. I know you're going into clinic very soon. Thank you for being here for us. And to all of you out there watching us, together we fight, together we win. We're about, as we close, we want to say, do not forget, follow the rules, follow what's it. Thank you for staying with us on Common Cancer Awareness on AIT. And please don't forget to follow us on all our social media handles, Commode Cancer Foundation. Or you can look for me, Dennis Sejo, if you need help for navigating your way forward. Thank you. Doc, thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Denise Ejo and the guest, Dr. Olatunde, right there. Such a conversation. As she mentioned where she started, bowel cancer is something that is not really in the news, and I'm happy that we're bringing it to the awareness of people, and even us here in the studio. Early detection would always be a conversation.
Yes, I've learned a lot from that, and I definitely, keep my attention on everything surrounding my body. All right, up next is entertainment and lifestyle. To stay with us.
Hello and welcome to Entertainment and Lifestyle on Kakaki, the African Voice. I am Chidera Izuri. It was an atmosphere of joy, worship, and heartfelt gratitude as friends, family, and well-wishers gathered at the Healing World Church to celebrate gospel singer Rachel Edmond on her birthday and album launch titled God's Faithfulness. A gathering of soul-lifting music, testimonies, and moments of praise, reflecting a journey deeply rooted in faith and perseverance. The celebrant shared that her musical journey began at a very young age, performing her first solo at just 5 years old. Her passion for music was nurtured within the church circle, which shaped her calling into ministry.
What really prompted me, I will not lie, I would say the way I was brought up. I was brought up in a God-fearing way, in a Christian family, and I came to realize that I have the passion for singing, and my passion grew inside the church. So that was really what shaped me to continue in that line. This album the title is God's Faithfulness. I have 5 songs, and it was inspired by God because I have waited for this instruction for a long time. I've written so many songs, but I was waiting for the right time, and God told me last year, I said, this is the time. I'm no more holding you. And so that was what inspired this album. From all the songs, the one that is most dear to my heart is Jehovah.
Her mentors and spiritual leaders lauded her music as uplifting and impactful, describing it as a divine gift capable of inspiring deeper faith and devotion.
Heavenly, it's prophetic. She doesn't sing, she ministers. Okay, and when I know as Minister Rachel, when she ministers, she's able to create an atmosphere for you to plug in and draw life from God. She's such an amazing minister. Prophetic, yeah. I already see her ministering to the nations of the earth, pulling many to Christ with her sound. And this is just the beginning of great things to come. And where she has started, it's a great place. But that's not the last place. We're lifting
well organized, and her administration is powerful. She's a gift everybody should hear and follow. So I recommend that you listen to the songs. They will be a blessing to you, really.
Rachel's family and friends commended her dedication and consistency and wished her continued growth and success as she celebrates a new chapter.
Rachel Edmond is somebody I know who has passion for her goal. She has been consistent for these years, pushing what God wants her to do. And by the grace of God today, we are seeing what is happening. Her sound is not just anyhow gospel sound. I would mean it's kind of sound that brings hope, that brings trust, and that beds faith in Christ when you hear it. And the sound will revive your spirits back to life. It's something everybody should stream and listen to. You will love it.
I'm happy for her today. I'm happy. And I bless her. I pray that today will be the beginning of greatness in her life. Today will be the beginning of greatness in her life. She will go places in the name of Jesus. This launching of album will take her, the whole world will hear her voice. They will hear her voice in the whole world in the name of Jesus.
The song they are singing today, to me, it was not a surprise to me because she has that zeal right from her when she was small. When she was small, she started from children choir, adult choir, any music session that she followed, she will be the one to solo the song. That is when I know she's going places. So her song she sings today is, oh, in her birthday, we wish her long life, prosperity, good health.
Today is her birthday. We give glory to God. We thank her and we thank God for keeping her and bringing her this far. And also for her launching of her album. It's a wonderful thing because it is something that she has been longing for, and with the help of God and my friend, the bishop, the husband, to God be the glory. Today, God has made it possible for her to actualize her dream, and we still pray that God will still continue to enable her in this her career, and she will go global by the special grace of God.
The album, God's Faithfulness, has 5 tracks. Jehovah, Faithful God, Power in Your Name, You Are Exalted, What Love Is This? The stage was set for one of Abuja's most glamorous entertainment shows, the grand finale of 40 and Fabulous. The highly anticipated reality TV show, which aims to empower women in their 40s, held on Saturday, April 18th, 2026, at the Transcorp Hilton. The event brought together some of the biggest names in entertainment, fashion, and lifestyle. Organizers say the grand finale is not just an event, but a celebration of excellence and creativity.
There are other women who are 40 years plus right now that is thinking that age, religion, marriage, has deprived them of their career choice. Why don't I start the storytelling from them so I can let the world hear their stories and let them know that 40 can never be a barrier. So maybe in season 6, 7, 8, I'll tell my story because it's a whole lot. So I created a place called Mother's Nest where women come to share their true life story after 40 years.
So it's inspiring, it's educating, it's rare. Really, in Nigeria, this show is rare. So it's one of a kind. And I believe it's going fast because I know this show inspire women and make women to showcase their talent. And then, it's a beautiful show. And not just educating, it has a way of bringing out women hiding their talent, women scared to wear some kind of wears, but it gives them confidence. Then look at me. I think I have a big tummy in season 1, but when I went to season 1, I saw people having big tummy than me, dressing gorgeously. Yeah, you can see me.
That's right.
My big tummy, I can flaunt myself.
Thanks that Madam has put in for the program, because I was here last 2 years. I was in 2 years or 3 years ago when the first or maybe the second one took place, and I coming to my office to invite the DG and wanted the DG to be part of it. I saw her enthusiasm, the way she put everything in it. She's somebody that has so much, how will I say it? She really wants to see it become a success.
Participants expressed gratitude to the organizers for being part of the reality show, which has helped empower them as women in their 40s and above.
Actually, mixed feelings because I really do know that I have all it takes to win, but it was a competition. We had an opportunity to have the public vote for us, but maybe I didn't get as much votes as the first runner-up, I'm sorry, as the winner, but coming out as the first runner-up, it made me feel happy because it gave me that opportunity to be able to, give what I originally have in mind, to give to women who are less opportuned to be in the know about how to be fabulous at 40 and beyond 40. So it's helped me, the brand, that position of being the first runner-up helped me to be in the position to reach out to women, and I was able to achieve a lot.
I think it actually makes me feel like the leader that I believe that I am, because leaders are always the ones that lay the foundation. They set the pace everywhere they go. So winning a reality show like this, especially as a spiritual person and being the first, the pioneer queen, actually, it makes me stronger. It brings out better values in me.
Nigerian music icon Peter Okoye, popularly known as Mr. P of the legendary pair P-Square, has sparked reactions online after announcing a surprising personal decision. Taking to his social media platform, the singer revealed that he is officially changing his birth date, sending fans into a wave of curiosity and speculation. While Mr. P did not immediately provide full details behind this decision, the statement has since gone viral, with many fans wondering whether the move is symbolic, personal, or simply a light-hearted declaration. Known for his candid personality and strong online presence, Peter Okoye has never shied away from making bold statements, and this latest announcement is no exception. As reactions continue to pour in, fans are eagerly waiting to see if the music star will shed more light on the reason behind this change. That's it on Entertainment Lifestyle. I am Chidera Ismail.
Welcome back from Entertainment and Lifestyle there with Chidera, and I hope you enjoyed that one there. Well, we've come to the end of another show on